episode 76. Another boing into Immortal Unchained, with one of us having finished the bloody thing, except 2 of us have finished it, and 2 haven't. 4 people, yes, 4.
Are we seeing double?
Today we're joined for the first time by Sentinel Plus.
Hello.
As well as friend to many, I say that in inverted commas, podcasting slut, Jeremy Greer.
That's... If it wasn't Halloween, I would change that to my Twitter name right now, because that's really good. Thank you for having me back. It's good to be here. I love what you've done with the place since I've been gone.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I am the entity known as Coffee Jesus, joined as ever by my partner in crime, Pro Gamer. I'll start this again. Pro Gamer, start again, one bro discussed.
What up? What up? It's your boy. It's your boy Pro Strats.
You really are.
It's your boy Paddy Pro Strats, as featured on the Immortal Unchained Facebook page now. Get in that. I'm famous.
Really?
Really? Yeah. No, actually, really now.
Wow.
Pro Strats
hasn't got a pen anywhere near him, but he's turned up on a Facebook.
You don't need to write notes when you're famous.
It's true. You should have people to do that for you.
Yeah. So before we kick in, because people on our show will know who Jeremy is, because he's a noted scoundrel and appears on everything we do.
Oh my word! It's almost as if I've gotten in my copious notes.
Oh, okay. We'll carry on then. Fine.
Fine.
I was just trying to be courteous.
Jesus Christ! He turns up not even with a pen, pretending that he's thrown his keyboard away, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Whoa! Let's slow this down and let's introduce the new guy." It's almost like, so Sen, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Do you prefer Sentinel or Dave?
Dave.
Okay,
Dave.
I don't think anyone's actually referred to me as Sen, like, in the real world, so...
No, you see,
we'll just
now
go with Dave.
This isn't the real world, though. This is the internet.
It is the internet. So...
Caught in a landslide, there's no escape. So now, when Dark Souls comes out on Switch at the end of the week and I start playing it, I'm going to be going into Dave's Fortresses.
Yeah.
So everything's changed in that regard. So Dave, care to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yes.
Who you are and what you're about.
I'm about all sorts of things. I also host, 3 podcasts now. But Monster Monster, where we take a look at various creatures and beasties in multimedia, books, movies, that sort of thing. So that's pretty good fun. And then I also host a Kung Fu extravaganza podcast with Vader Van Oden. And we have a good laugh over some old Jackie Chan movies. And then most recently, I've started up a retro sci-fi Asian cinema podcast. So... something new on the plate there. Keeps me busy.
Well played on that regard. that veers radically into my wheelhouse. I'll have to listen to that. I didn't realise you were doing that. So.
It's just started up. We're about 5 episodes in. And that's a solo project, so it's a little different than, I guess, anything else I've done. And definitely more challenging talking to myself for an hour.
I'll have a natter with you. Oh, come on. I've got plenty to talk about in that regard. So, yeah. If you'll have me, I'll be
excellent. Yeah, we'll have to plan something.
Cool.
So between us all, we all have 4,000 podcasts. Enjoy this.
I just want to say, like, everybody makes fun of me for having a lot of podcasts, but Dave has, like, just as many as I do, but somehow doesn't get all of the shit that I do on Twitter. Why is that?
It just means that you're French kissing each other and then veering off into other directions.
No,
welcome the Orgy Brothers to the podcast.
Gets redirected onto Jeremy.
Oh, is that what happens? Okay,
that's
that makes more sense.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I have good deflector shields.
He does introduce himself as Jeremy Greer at the start of every show.
Oh, that's clever. I'm going to start doing that except I'm just going to introduce myself as Patty Stardust.
I get enough hate already.
To clear out anything that's vaguely approaching notes. Just do your own, live your life, raise some degus. Jeremy,
yes.
Who are you? What do you do? Where do you do it? Try to narrow it down.
I have a Dark Souls podcast that was partially inspired by the Twin Humanities podcast. It's called Don't Give Up Skeleton. Everybody that you're listening to right now has been a guest, so you can go listen to all of their episodes. I don't know when this is coming out, but I'm approaching episode 150 of that, if you can believe that, and I'm pretty excited about it. I've also got a really big guest that I just booked that I'm really happy about. Anyway, I also do a podcast called Monster of the Week, which is a podcast about the TV show Supernatural, where me and my buddy Chris Mosier, who has also been on the Twin Humanities podcast at one point.
I like it as that he's my buddy. As if you're just sectioning him off.
Yeah. So he's mine now. I don't.
He's my friend.
He's mine.
I remember when Chris used to talk to me. He's fine.
I took all of his attention, TJ.
Pre-Greer. That's what we call it.
That's it. That's true. We talk about hunks hunting ghost. That's pretty fun. And then I do a podcast called Days of Future Cast, which started as a podcast about the old X-Men animated series and is now going through kind of like all of the garbage Marvel animated stuff from the like 90s and early 2000s. I think we've announced it on the podcast. It's been public. We're kind of far ahead, but we're about to start the mid-90s Incredible Hulk animated series starring Mark Hamill and some other kind of notable actors, and I'm kind of excited because I don't have much experience with the Incredible Hulk, and I'm kind of excited to get into it. So,
I know one thing about that show is that every time the Hulk breaks a tank, everyone in the tank jumps out quickly and runs away just before he breaks the tank.
If you're talking about the TV show, like the actual like live action show, we're not covering that. This is like an animated thing.
Oh no, this is the animated show. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
See, the only kind of Hulk stuff that I really massively know was the comics from the 90s when Peter David did a really cool thing whereby he switched the Hulk banner roles around. So when Hulk was Hulk, he got the mind of Banner, so he was massive and really intelligent. But if he got too angry, he reverted to Banner and became almost and had the mind of a savage, so he became almost sort of irrelevant in that regard. But those were really great comics. Gary Frank doing the arcs as well.
I think I have some of those because that was my time of collecting comics, and I still have a couple of long boxes left where I was bagging and tagging all of the floppy issues. So I'm going to need to go back and dig into my archives. Yeah. I got out of that shit like real quick. That's just exhausting to keep up with and to manage or to do whatever. So yeah.
So no, I think the 90s was the time when I was just all about everything X-Men. So I was just picking up everything.
Yeah, and, absolutely. That was me too, and it was a terrible time to be doing that because the 90s X-Men were not good.
I'd look back over the kind of the soap opera aspect, and I kind of missed that because it went into from episode to episode to issue to issue to issue, but it wasn't as if they were writing for the trade. It was just this constant thing, and especially with people like Chris Claremont, I didn't appreciate at the time, but he could sow the seed of something and literally like put it in a box and ignore it for 3 years and then go, look who it is, Adam Warlock, and you're like, oh Christ,
I forgot about that dude.
Do you know what I mean? There was so many cards on the table that it wasn't as if they were just moving towards the conclusion of an individual story. It could be anything that Claremont has set down and gone, oh yeah, I left that there. And I do kind of miss that. Plus, there was some great stuff like Joe Casey's Cable Run, which was just stunning, really, really good. With Ledron on art, who went on to do lots of Metal Hurlant stuff, and and drew like a cross between Mobius and Kirby. It was a belting run, that was. So there we go, X-Men talk.
Yes, welcome to daysoffuturecast.com. I'll be your host, Jeremy Greer.
I can imagine when you're sort of going out with Autumn and it's just like you get to like the supermarket or whatever they call it in America, and you're just like, hi, I'm Jeremy Greer, and I will be buying my own food today. This is my special guest, my wife Autumn, and Autumn's just dives off into the milk aisle and just leaves you to it.
It's really awkward asking every cashier to rate and review me on iTunes.
Especially refusing to give you a card before they do it.
but totally worth it.
Yeah. My phone's back in the office. I'll wait.
You can go get it.
just signing off with a little "don't give up" skeleton, walking over the wink, and they just look at you like, "What?"
Oh man, that I might actually start doing. That's very funny. That'd be a fun catchphrase to have in actual existence.
So,
and then give it like the double finger guns as well, like a ka-chow.
Ka-chow. Yeah.
So both you fine folks are fans of Souls, which is how we know you. But you never know when it's somebody's first episode. Where do your preferences lie within the Souls games, and why is that the case in particular? Dave?
Oh, Dark Souls 2 probably. I think is where I came into the series.
Beautiful man.
Mostly had the fun there.
Good son. Yes, lad.
Was that your first Souls?
No, I started with Demon Souls. And then just kind of moved on with each entry. But 2 was the one where I stuck through and finished the playthrough before bouncing back to Demon Souls in number 1.
I still agree with Jeremy that they should have called that Dragon Souls and just let it stand on its own in the same way as, Demons and Dark, and just had those little tickles and nudges towards the first game.
Yeah, I mean, they could have, and then Dark Souls 3 could have just been Tree Souls. I don't know.
Done it before Souls.
Past tense Souls.
Ditto Souls. There we go. Ditto Souls, because it all happened before.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. It's clever.
Why Souls 2 in particular?
I think it was the aesthetic and maybe just the music when it kicks in just pulled me in, and I think that was all she wrote at that point. And I don't know. I just had a lot of fun with it, and maybe the learning curve didn't feel as steep right off the bat anyway, especially in comparison to like Demon Souls.
It's strange because a lot of folks who say play Bloodborne first or play the other games will come to the Souls 2, and it just seems like I'm always surprised that they find it more difficult. And I know it's different because there are kind of more enemies coming at you at once, but you are given more opportunities to heal yourself with the Estus and the I forgot what they're called. It's been a while.
Life gems.
Life gems. Well played.
Goodness me.
Candy apples? What does Laura call them on the Patty Does One Burst series? She has a name for them.
Like sweets.
Yeah.
Bonbons or something. Just any kind of sweet that's in her mind at the time. That's what they're called.
I like how then you were berating me for not remembering a bit from a game that I haven't played for a while. But then you went and downplayed something that you couldn't remember from your own good lady, your wife.
Yeah, but
moving on.
Look, man, this playthrough's taken its toll, okay?
So, Jeremy, same question to your good self, sir.
Oh boy, I feel like I have talked about Dark Souls so much on the internet. You guys have like an hour for me to get into this?
Yeah, sorry for that. If you are a new listener, if you can go through bloody 78 episodes of Don't Give Up Skeleton, do that first and then come back. Maybe you can
we're doing Jeremy's shit now, aren't we? If we can just talk about Supernatural for a bit, we've jacked all of his steam.
That's true. That's absolutely true. I started with Dark Souls 1, and that game has a special place in my heart. And I was one of those weirdos that got really into the PvP side of it, so I played that game for like hundreds and hundreds, if not close to 1,000 hours. And at that point, afterwards, I went back to Demon Souls, and then just have progressively gone through the series. I think it's really hard for me to judge like which to make a list of what my favorite games are, because they're so quirky and they have all of their own little inconsistencies and things that I like about them that other games don't have. But I think like going back to Dark Souls 1 will always be kind of like my Dark Souls home, right? Because it's the place that I spent the most time in. It's the place that I'm the most familiar with. I love all of the games, even Dark Souls 2. Like, it took me a little while to come to terms with Dark Souls 2, but once I did, it really clicked. And then, going back to Demon Souls, like that game, it was the first Souls game I played, and I played it for 45 minutes and was like, this sucks. I don't like this, which is a huge change. Fast forward 5 years or however long. So yeah, I think if I come to the game that we're going to be talking about today, and I see a lot of that early Souls DNA into it, and I think that's like I see a lot of Dark Souls 1 in this game, and I think CJ, you've talked about seeing a lot of Demon Souls into it, and I see that as well. But
yeah, big time.
That's part of the reason that I'm so excited about it. That the game has kind of captured me, so to speak.
It's been, for me, it's been a while since this sort of game has been paced this way, has felt this physical and this deliberate, where it's... I always thought when the original Dark Souls came out that it felt more arcadey than Demon Souls. There wasn't as much sort of weight to or physicality to the weapons, and this, particularly in the playthrough that I'm doing, it just feels like everything has to be thought through. There's a momentum to it. You know, you have to factor in the reload. You factor in your enemies' reloads into it, and I don't know. I think it's interesting, and it puts knots in my tummy and takes me really back to where I was when I first played Demons, which is part of the fascination, I think. So, Immortal Unchained then. Dave, straight in. Where did you discover it, and did you have any preconceptions going in?
No, I didn't actually. I found this on the PlayStation Store, I think the day that it came out, and I didn't pick it up then, but I watched the trailer, and I thought, well, it's not the Surge, so this looks pretty interesting. And I don't know, I almost didn't want to look up any kind of other trailers or see if there was reviews. I was like, maybe I'll just pick it up. It was, it's not, this retails at less than, a AAA title price point. I think it's like $45 US or something around there. So that was kind of put it on my wish list, maybe I'll come back and pick this up. And then as a matter of fact, that week or maybe a little bit later, you guys released an episode with a little bit of a small interest in this game, and I think at that point I was like, I'll stop the podcast for a bit, go pick up the game, and kind of just dive into it, and that's cool. That's pretty much what happened. And then I returned to the episode and your subsequent ones that you've talked about this title, and found myself pretty much in agreement wholeheartedly with all of your opinions thus far, and have, as I think as we alluded to, I'm on my second playthrough now, so it's well and sure got its hooks in me.
That makes me smile a lot. That sort of you got to a point and you're like, yeah, I'm on this, and then you just sort of ran off and then came back, and everything afterwards was sort of familiar. Whereas in those early sort of parts, there was a degree of like, what are you talking about? Oh, that does sound good. That definitely sounds like my sort of. And then it just cuts, and there's like a cartoon sort of plume of smoke on the floor, and just sort of maybe a hat falling to the floor, and like just of the front door going, and then running to the shops. Yeah,
I think my beard was probably just floating in the air until I caught back up.
Well, your beard blur caught up with my orange blur really quickly as well, didn't it? Because the way me and CJ play was very different to each other. CJ likes to hang around and take his time, whereas I'd like to, get on with it. That makes it sound terrible, doesn't it? But I was sort of foraging onwards, at a decent clip, I thought. And I didn't really have anyone else I was talking to about it. Like, nobody else was either as far as I was, or it was like proper uncharted territory. And when I saw you were kind of at the same point, I think that's when the grand DM list started, didn't it?
Yes. a few messages back and forth, I think.
That Twitter conversation in the DMs went on for like 2 straight weeks, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're still going on.
Where are you? They are still going on. But have you found this? What's about this? I think I remember pointing you towards the best weapon in the game, I think. My favourite one. And trying to sort of navigate by, the obelisk with the thing, and you go down that hallway, and there's 2 fire guys, and then you've got looks like a library, and there's vines all over it. Do you know where I mean? Is this? No, the other one. There was a lot of that kind of vagary back and forwards that I think you don't get with a lot of the larger titles that come out, because they're always wikied and mapped out within day one. All the guides are out, whereas there's nothing.
It's us, just trailblazing.
That really takes me back to the early days of Demons in particular. Wasn't really sort of looking through anything. Didn't really know a whole lot other than I suppose there was the guide that came with the US version of the game, and then the UK sort of Black Phantom edition, and then in Dark Souls, just none of us who were sort of there initially knew that there would be that much lore or that much of a story, or I don't know. The best runs are always the ones where you don't know what you're supposed to be doing. But yeah, I hadn't really sort of thought of that, but I guess that definitely is a, you're not seeing a million videos on the internet of people that have already played it. And
even like to the point of like, where should I put my points? Like, is this a good stat to put in? Is that a good stat? What should I be spending them on? Like, I don't know.
Playing by instinct is always the best way to play these things.
Until you drop 20 levels into a trap stat. That's
yeah.
Resistance. That's going to be useful.
Well, I think we've definitely blundered into a few point traps already.
Finesse, you bastard. How dare you make me put 30 points in you and the weapon that I did it for be rubbish? How dare you?
But I think the game's very good about coaxing you in different directions and sort of tempting you, and if you want to try something, or if you don't, or if something's maybe a couple of levels up from where you are, you might sort of go, yeah, I'm going to grind a bit and go for that. That sounds like my sort of thing. But it never feels like, magic is ruled out, or do you know what I mean? How the Souls games went on, it just seemed like they started limiting certain builds, and that doesn't seem the case here, because from the people that I've talked to, everybody seems to be doing different things with it, and I'm actually curious. I would be curious to see how people are playing it, not just with the weapons that they've got, but their style of play. So that's been a curiosity when I've been going through it, definitely.
I mean, something worth noting, just before we move past this, like in terms of like builds and stuff, I really appreciate, this is a really small thing, I appreciate that you can go into the upgrade screen, you can see if you fully upgrade that weapon, like what numbers it'll have, and you can compare that to what you've got pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So if you pick up a gun and think, oh, this looks pretty cool, I wonder what this does, and you can see that it does burst fire, it has this many bullets, it does this kind of damage, but you can then see like, oh, what damage will that end up actually doing with my stat right now? And you can see, oh, actually no, that's going to end up far worse, I'm not going to bother, or that's going to be much better, I can dump the gun I've got and start leveling up this one instead. And you kind of don't feel like you're wasting points after bad guns anymore, because you can see where the numbers end up. Like you can actually see this will end up stronger. Yeah, really, really clever. And it means you can then make informed decisions, because you can't outright buy the upgrade stuff, you have to go find it, so you do have to kind of pick what you want carefully, but it gives you that little bit more information. You can go, actually, I'm going to dig in a little bit, see what I've got, and make a choice based on the numbers, rather than gut feeling and thinking, oh yeah, this weapon looks great, and then just turns out to be utter trash, which I've done a few times in other games.
So Jeremy, what were your origins with Immortal Unchained, my good man?
Have either of you heard of have any of you heard of the Twin Humanities podcast?
No, never.
What a pair of dicks.
So the two of you started kind of talking about this on Twitter, and you released the first episode of the podcast. I was at a bar one Saturday afternoon, and I was about maybe 2 or 3 pints in, if you will, if I can use that terminology.
Mm-hmm. Jars, Jeremy, jars.
I was 2 or 3 deep, and I was looking on Twitter because my wife and my father-in-law were having a real detailed conversation about U.S. politics, and that was not what I was into, so I was just kind of tuning them out and looking at Twitter. And I think it was you, CJ, that had said something about it in Demon Souls or something. I don't remember quite what the tweet was, but I was just like, you know what, screw it, and I opened up the PS Store on my phone and just bought it sight unseen. So by the time I got home that day, it had downloaded. I wasn't able to play it for a couple of days just because of my schedule, so I ended up listening to, by that point, the first 2 episodes of the podcast. And then finally just the first one. I didn't listen to the second one yet. And then just picked it up from there, really excited to play it, and have basically played nothing else ever since. I turned on Isaac because I just had like a 30 minutes to kill one day, and I didn't feel like I could really get a good value out of my time for 30 minutes in Immortal Unchained, but other than that, it's been pure Unchained gaming, if you will. It's been a lot of fun.
Given you, especially the Demon Souls aspect really sort of drew you in. What were your early thoughts on the game then? Your initial forays into it?
So I thought I wasn't like hugely impressed right at the start. I was way more curious than I was anything, because the game, and this isn't taking away anything from the developers, I don't think, when I say this, but the game is kind of like relatively low budget. Like there's no like real fancy cutscenes. Like, you know, the story is like these kind of very, very nice looking like drawings, but they're just drawings. And I was like, man, this seems kind of okay, space dude yelling and breaking some chains. Like, what is this going to be? And over the course of the next 10 hours, that game got its story hooks in me and its design hooks in me in a way that has not happened since, you know, a Dark Souls 1 or a Demon Souls.
Well, do you remember Demon Souls told its cutscenes very much like that, whether it be the spread at the start or the monumental sort of telling telling the tales, and that's another sort of real touchstone to me. It's and fires away in the imagination, and that artwork is gorgeous.
It's very pretty. Yeah, it looks very nice. You know, it's interesting when you compare, because I was talking about this in the Duckfeed Slack the other day. It's, you know, because people are like, there's 3 or 4 people in the Slack that are like and me, a guy named Chicken Rickies, and someone else, I believe, that are all playing it and are all talking about it in like their Bonfireside chat channel. So their Souls channel, and basically people are like, this is like a $40 or $50 game, but like I've not heard about it and the reviews are crap. Why are you guys playing this? It's like, because it's good. And remember, like Demon Souls got shit reviews too. Like, you know, Famitsu gave Demon Souls a 29, you know, which is fucking insane if you think about it nowadays. For one of the most pivotal games of that generation, right? So, but going back to actually playing it the first time, I struggled a little bit with the controls and just trying to figure stuff out. I'm 25 hours deep, and I still have not used an energy weapon, or not energy weapon, but the energy, like the special ability for my weapons. I can't figure that shit out at all.
I crazy keep forgetting. After our conversation on DM about it, that's what keeps now firing in the back of my head. I was like, oh, try that. And I think in one of the boss battles, I was like, what kind of energy weapon I've got? It's an acid cloud. That'll do. I don't know if it's doing any use at all to that boss. But I fired my energy weapon.
Yeah,
Jeremy would be so proud.
Trust me when I say, even at the end of the game, you still forget.
I just don't remember.
They're okay, but they're not they're very situational normally, and that's fine. Like, they're allowed to be situational, but a lot of them are not in the situation where it would be good. Although some of them later are legit amazing. There is one later. A special ability called Ghost Rounds, okay, on a couple of weapons, like the yellows, the epic weapons, that will shoot through all armor and all shields.
Oh, dope! Yeah,
it's very
I like that.
That needs to be written on the inside of a Valentine's card. That's because that's just the most romantic poem that I've ever read.
So yeah, I got into it, and I haven't stopped playing it since. Patty mentioned like a string of long DMs. I think I've contributed to that. I've been DMing both you and CJ, and just like nonstop my impressions, or like asking Patty like, where the fuck do I go? I don't understand. Like, where is this? How do I get out of Bagor? I don't get it.
What's a Bagor?
So it's been a lot of fun, and I'm very, very thankful for you guys for pointing it out, because otherwise I would have completely missed this. Like, it's off of everybody's radar. I can't tell you how many times that I have a Don't Give Up Skeleton Discord server, and I've been kind of posting about it in there a little bit, and I have had probably 5 or 6 people be like, what? I've never even heard of this. What is this? What is this weird game that you're playing that's Souls with guns? So,
what about you, Dave? What were your early impressions then?
I really dug into what they've done with like the combat, and it's very fluid. But I think my favorite aspect of the game are the hitboxes. Whatever they've done with the mesh on that is like glued to your character. So aside from what you get with general Souls combat, we all know the feeling of someone taking a swing at you from 5 meters away and it's hitting you. And this is clearly not the case. The laser beams or any kind of incoming fire, it can miss you by like a millimeter, and it doesn't register as a hit. So that aspect of it, and I've also begun my one bro of this game. It's definitely
oh god,
it's
strong boy.
It's a thing.
We should come back to that.
All the cool kids doing it.
But I hadn't really thought about the hitbox stuff at all. But I know that there are those sort of rifle guys that can be like, and then boom, you've got that red bullet that goes. And like I've got the timing down of that pause between the sort of hum and then the fire of the bullet and the jump out of the way. And I hadn't really thought how accurate it was, but you spot on.
Yeah, the hitbox porn is real. Like, it is real. I've had a few moments, again, during the level 1 run I've been doing, where a proper little kind of like noise comes out when you see it gonna go just under your armpit. Like, how did that not hit me? Okay, we're okay now. It's very good. Very, very good. And it's, like, consistent as well. So, like, if you get shot with a bullet, you see it hit you. It's like, fair enough. You got me.
So, Dave, when did the momentum kick in? Was it sort of a certain quality you couldn't quite put your finger on, or was it sort of something sort of far more electric that sort of took you?
I think right from the opening, the cutscene, and you begin in this prison, all of the like aesthetics just were what I wanted out of this game. I mentioned the Surge earlier, and that was by no accident. I wanted sci-fi souls for a long time, as much as I also wanted just a werewolf souls, but we didn't get that. This hit all the right buttons, and it remains like a dark story, but it's told in small drips that you're finding as you traverse the areas, and you're getting a lot of the lore from specific enemy drops, and you can't always count on that it being a drop. You kind of have to farm for some of it. And that's what I really kind of dug into. I wanted that experience when I had originally played Dark Souls and kind of wanted to do these lore dives sort of on my own. But by the time I actually got around to playing those seriously, the wikis were filled. There was 510 lore videos all on like Yorshka's tail. I mean, it's like, it gets ridiculous. But this has none of that, so anything that we're finding it feels like a real treasure. And just coming to that at the forefront just makes it feel all that more special. So I've dumped 50 hours into this game already, and really that's just been kind of fine-tooth combing through all of the areas, indiscriminately murdering all the enemies to see what they give me. Give me that sweet lore. But they also put lore environmentally, and I think that's also really interesting. You get these idea of these memorials, and I kind of want to figure out like why they're there. And I'm sure that's just it's a gaming conceit. There's not probably going to be a real reason to this, but your save point obelisk, this monolith, all this kind of old technology. It's akin to the ruins you're seeing in Dark Souls that tell a story of this place that had been, and we're kind of just wandering through the memories of what's going on here. And this game in particular pays a lot of attention and deals very strongly in the tropes of memory loss and what that means, and what we're seeing in the few NPCs we're kind of graced with, and their dialogue. The voice acting is like on spot. It's super good, and that's
my word.
One large difference. Absolutely. I think that we don't get as much, even though there are like high profile voice actors doing the Dark Souls voices. This just felt really dialed in, like they just got it perfectly.
I think in that regard, and it's something that I alluded to in the last episode, the point where that really took me aback was when I had the conversation with Bren, and the story that was told was absolutely chilling and brilliant and so well delivered. And the aspect of now having freedom, but freedom being a prison that paralyzes in equal measure was just, it stayed in my mind. And whoever was delivering it, like I say, was just super into telling that story. It was magnificent.
I would even argue as well that even gets better as you go. there's more, and I think it's better.
Absolutely. Like, not having finished the game yet, I am insanely curious to finish like the NPC storylines and things like that, and just find out more about what's happening in this world. The I don't know exactly where we're going to be doing, like, spoiler wise, but it's pretty obvious when you get into that very first area that you're going to be like you're going to be retreading that area to do something else later because you find chests that you can't open yet.
Yeah.
When I did that, when I started retreading that area and then going beyond, the whole sequence from the very beginning, like the first point that you see something that you hadn't seen before in the level to the very end of it, was one of the most amazing gaming storytelling experiences that I've had. Like, it was just so much fun. It was so interesting. It was scary as hell. Like, the whole time, there were times where I just literally would get to an obelisk and just like, yes, and like, hands sweating, no ammo, like zero heals, like the whole nine. It was intense, but all of the lore that I was finding was feeding into stuff that the game had given me to do, and was giving me, and the level design was also matching that lore. So it was one of those things where you're not playing a game level, you're playing something that felt like it actually existed before it was a game, if that makes any sense, which I think is something that
that's really good.
Souls games pulls off somewhat well in some cases. And you think about like the Duke's Archives as a place and not necessarily a game level. I get a lot of Latria is like that too, and Demon's Souls. I get a lot of vibes of that going through some of these things of like, oh, this is a place. You didn't make this into a level, you made this into a place, and then you figure out how to make your game around it, which is so much better for me.
Because it oftentimes I'm put in the mindset of 2 in Demon's Souls, whereby it's a long level, and the further that you get, the more there's this sort of childlike awe and terror that you might not be able to find your way back, like you're wandering in some sort of mystical wood in a fable or something. And even in this regard, when you get to an obelisk, there is that feeling of like, oh, thank God. But there's also the point where it's like, I don't know if I could make it back as far as I've just come. And it's really chilling. And the game, I think, knows how to do pacing so well.
Oh my God, yes.
It can overwhelm you, but there's the loudest noise oftentimes is absolute silence, because the paranoia just has you kind of walking onwards, and you're thinking, which weapon would leave me at my best if something comes towards me? And you're constantly ready to kind of flick to something else, and but it's a case of turn the TV up, just have the sound effects really loud, and just listening for everything. And I
trying to get one step ahead of the oh bollocks moment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's an area that I stumbled into that plays with that exact same thing that you're describing, the way that the sound works in the game, in a really delightful way that causes you to be nothing but paranoid while you're just moving through the level. There's no enemies in sight, you can't see anything, but every once in a while a sound happens and you start wheeling around the camera, and then you're like, what the hell is that? And then you realize, oh, it's that safe thing that I don't have to worry about. I keep forgetting about it, but it's because the game is allowing you to rest, because the game is not packing the levels every inch with enemies. You have those moments of like tense quietness where they can really scare you, which I think is amazing. Like, I can't believe they pulled that off in this game.
I like as well that, I mean, obviously I'm on Apexion at the minute, but there's something about that level that you've got the kind of the whisper of the rain, but also the kind of lightning crashes, and part of me always thinks, has something summoned? And as an enemy just sort of risen up, because it's not a million miles away from the same sound effect when they just appear. So part of me is always like, you hear the crash, and I'll be like looking around like super paranoid. I will say as well that I was pretty harsh on the music in the game last time, and I'd like to address that a bit. Mm-hmm. Previous levels have sort of intersected the the gameplay with sort of somber tones and nothing that particularly stood out as such. But in fairness, they let the sound effects and the atmosphere take priority and don't overpower them. Like Viridian took that on a notch, and it moves to sort of those deep, long sort of cello strokes to underscore the atmosphere. And Apexion just moves that up a notch again with some sort of wild, unsettling sort of violin. And it's almost as if the score underneath is taking steps forward with each new level as well. It's subtle, and as I've moved through the game, I've come to appreciate it all the more.
There is an area later called Beagle, and the music there is fucking Star Wars.
Yep.
Yeah. Really?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I'm in it right now, and it is great.
It is Star Wars as fuck. It is, I am on Tatooine, this is Tatooine, I'm on Tatooine.
Oh, man.
It's proper. And I actually stopped for a second and just listened to it for a minute, like, this is really good.
Oh, that's smart.
What's this doing in Helltown?
So, Jeremy, where did you find sort of your momentum in this game? How did it sort of seize you? And I don't know, how did you find your path forward? Was it sort of, well, I'll keep chipping away at this, I'll see how it is, or was it more of a case of like, can't put this down?
By the time I got kind of midway through Arden, I knew that I was playing something special and I was enjoying it. A lot of people that talk about this game that I read online talk about like that it has some jank to it because it's not a AAA game. I didn't really find any of that at all at the beginning. Like at first I was kind of marveling at the controls. Like I'm having a good time. Every death feels like, with one exception that I'm going to get into a little bit later, but every death feels like it's my fault. Like I'm going to learn from it every single time. And just kind of the way that you could move around the environment, the way that the different weapons I was using at the time, it was pistols and assault rifles. It has since become shotguns and one assault rifle.
Shotgun, you say?
I haven't found my fourth shotgun yet, but we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, by the midway through Arden, and then you get to the boss of Arden, and it has a gimmick that you guys kind of briefly discussed, I think, that is really good, and it makes you kind of think about where you're placed in the level compared to the boss. You can't just willy-nilly, slide around and try to get behind him, and I thought that was really interesting. And then by the time Viridian comes around, where you come out of Arden feeling like, all right, well, I am doing well. I'm level like 14 or whatever. I don't remember where I was, but like I am strong. And then you walk into Viridian, and before they even hint at an obelisk, like this dude with 2 axes comes out of nowhere and just murderizes you. And it was one of those like great feelings, like, because I just instantly knew. I don't know what it was in my head, but I was like, I'm going to come back to this one day and I'm going to murder everybody without even thinking about it. And sure enough, that was my experience. Either yesterday or the day before, where that guy, the guy with the dual axes, who I would spend whole clips trying to kill, and they would kill me over and over again. I just walked up to him with my big frost hammer and hit him twice, and he died. And it was so good. So very early the game got me, and then by the time I saw like the late stuff that Viridian does, and then got into Apexion, and then everything else that I've been doing ever since, which I don't really want to spoil for anybody, but is like Apexion is so dramatically different than the previous areas. You just kind of like, whoa, that's amazing. And then by the time you get to some of the, I guess this is in game. I don't really know. I haven't asked that question, and I kind of don't want to know yet. But like some of the late game stuff that I'm in now, I'm just, especially with the way that they're playing with the worlds a little bit, I'm just super into it.
Curious. So, what would you say has been your favourite stuff along the way, and the biggest moments, I guess?
Oh, man, this is difficult to talk about because it's a moment that I really, really liked. I was exploring kind of the later stages of Arden, and I found a weird looking door that looked very familiar because I'd seen it in the Nexus, and I was like, well, this is unusual. And so I opened it up. I had like whatever keys I needed to open it up, and I walked into it, and it was so starkly different from the environment, from the sounds, from the enemies, And even the way that it was named was so starkly different than anything I'd seen before. And I was just looking around going like, what the fuck is this? Where am I? What could this serve? And again, I don't even want to say the name of it because I feel like the name is a spoiler. Like that's where I'm at right now. I want to abbreviate stuff on Twitter when I talk about it. That was one of my favorite moments so far, and it must have been a later game area because I could not progress through it whatsoever. I sent you a story, CJ, of getting pretty far into it and being out of ammunition and out of healing and like just looking down the corridor and realizing I couldn't compete and just leaving. Like I couldn't deal with it. I chickened out. So,
but don't you think this is sort of really cool that obviously we're all familiar with the Souls games, and we're getting lots of Souls likes that sort of feel like they're treading sort of very similar paths. But here's something which, bizarrely enough, the fan base hasn't really caught fire with, and yet we're all excited by the fact that it's doing new stuff. It's surprising us. It's making us feel scared and tense, and giving us these huge moments of awe. It's I don't know.
It does. I mean, given how like the whole Souls community was like, so Salt and Sanctuary comes out, everyone jumps on it. Neo came out, everyone jumped on it. The Surge came out, basically everyone jumped on that as well. And
Lords of the fucking Fallen, Patty. Come on,
Jesus Christ. That's true. I actually did download that again because I was kind of thinking maybe I'll give that another go. This is Souls-ish. I'll try it again, and I've not been brave enough to turn it on yet.
Has this game sort of lured you into like, maybe I was wrong about other stuff?
Maybe I was. I'm not good at being right.
You might just be setting yourself up for a Fall on that one, or a Lords of the Fall.
A Lords of the Fall. Ooh, very good. I've lost my train of thought now. You've destroyed me. Well done.
Okay, I should move back to Dave. Dave, the character creator. What were your thoughts on it, and what look did you go with?
I was hoping it would be a little bit more encompassing, particularly in differences between. You can pick a male or female avatar, and they're largely the same. This large muscle-bound fellow, whether you pick male or female. But what was
strapped down breast is the only difference, isn't it? Really,
pretty much. But what I did like was they kind of give. They give you an option for body tattoos, and that's kind of interesting. But the fun bit is all of the facial decorations, or if you like, you could have a bearded lady if that's what you want to do.
Which props to that for not gender excluding, just a beard or a tattoo or something like, oh, only a woman can have this tattoo or only a dude can have a beard. Like props to them for just letting in who cares? It's a video game. We literally don't care what you guys do.
Doesn't matter.
I did like that I went back and forth between sort of the male and female ones, but as I was going through all of the options, it was mainly to see which look that I liked the most when I just piled everything on. But I was going through all the bits and going, oh, that's really weird. Oh, that's weird. Oh, that's really weird. And I couldn't decide because they were all sort of really quirky and really
I was there for fucking ages.
Yeah,
same. I was there for ages. Even tattoo colour. Oh, the blue looks nice, but so does the red. But does it look better in that particular tattoo? Oh, it does.
Or then changing the skin tone. It's the tattoo's good, but if I change the skin, then I got to change the color of the tattoo. I think you can put
now my face metal is wrong, so I've got to change my face metal now.
Oh yeah, you got to get that face metal right, man. You can't.
What kind of face metal did you guys go for? Face metal? Because I went for the kind of the metal sideburn looking face metal.
I have pins, I guess it would be I kind of look like Pinhead from the Hellraiser series. I kind of look like one of those dudes. So, and I think I've got 3 strips of 4, one in the middle and then 2 on each side of me. And I'm some sort of blue-black guy. I look bizarre and I love it. So,
I think I picked the one where it's 4 prongs coming out of your forehead, at least on the first character.
Oh, I know the one. That's weird.
That was good. It was good.
I kind of went for the big bit of kind of circular clock-like tech on one side of your face, and then sort of matched that with a Mohican, and with the red and the yellow that I used, I looked a little bit like DC Comics' Red Tornado, which made me kind of quite wistful and happy because I like that character.
It's got an almost Liefeldish sort of look when you're finished, doesn't it? Like, I'm going to strap a load of pouches and just metal bits to a really buff-looking face.
Ooh, I think you're underselling that.
In a nice way. In a nice way. And Liefeld's the nearest touch point I can think of, top of the head.
There's a very kind of... this is a British thing, but it's a precursor to 2000 AD. It was called Star-Lord, which was my favourite comic as a kid. And it's got a real, just a scratchy and unusual and sort of acid-tinged feel to it, and I think that sits really well amongst the environments, because the environments do all differ and they're all sort of strange, but you are stranger. And I like
Trooper
that.
was the one you mentioned to me. That's the one that hits for me. Rogue Trooper. That's
yeah.
That, or even
I think that was
even
one of the things where
Nemesis the Warlock.
You see, this is one of the things where I went back to Pat about it, and I was like, is a little bit sort of Rogue Trooper. I can see the Nemesis the Warlock thing, because I'm sure Paddy mentioned that at the same time as well. But I like. In a similar way to Warframe, I like an art design that I stare at because it's off kilter. It just looks wonky and weird and sort of ethereal, and I dig that over sort of smooth and polished and symmetrical, I guess. So yeah. What sort of class did you go for then, Dave? And were there sort of any particular challenges with the weapons, or anything that where you started out veering into one thing but then went, I actually really like this?
What is it? I think it's like the Wanderer. It's whatever the class is at the bottom.
The Mercenary, the same one I picked. Really even stats.
It might have been. If it started out with the dodge, that's the aspect I think you're granted in the beginning.
And the hammers.
Yes.
Yes.
So I picked that as my first run character, and I didn't really have too many difficulties. However, I was finding, just listening to a few of like Mai's tweets, and I think even some of yours, the bosses that everyone else breezed through were giving me problems, but on the ones that they were finding difficult, it was easier. And I think that just comes down to build and the weapons that you pick. Because with this game, each of the weapons, they're not interchangeable. They do feel completely their own thing. Running around with 10 shotguns, of course, feels completely different than if you're trying to use all pistols or SMGs or the rifle, anything like that. It's definitely quite different than if you're trying to use the launchers. But I went through, I would say, probably a good half of the game with just the auto shotgun. I was finding more success with that. It meshed a little bit more with my play style. But as the later game kind of came on and I was running into some of the legendary weapons, I switched over to almost exclusively using one of the launchers that you find. And then again back to the shotgun once we found the super good one.
But I threw that away. I think I know the launcher you mean. I thought I'm never going to use that, and I just threw it in the bin immediately.
Well, it's a stat dump if you aren't equipped to get. I think it requires 30 of whatever the stat was. So if you were not aiming for that, that's quite a grind. I also initially dumped all of my extra points into strength. So I think right now I have 40 something strength, but the shotgun combined with running up and meleeing everything was how I dealt with most of the game. And that doesn't work on some of the bosses just because of their area of attack or whatever they're doing doesn't benefit you to be standing directly by them. A lot of the hits are one hit kills because I put 0 points into the dodge stat, and I also put 0 into my health. I didn't realize the insight stat that gives you bonuses to elemental attacks was potentially more beneficial in the late game than your basic weapon mastery skill stat. So those two things do mean a lot. Yep. And it definitely behooves any new players or current ones to take a look specifically at the weapons you're using, and they'll tell you whether it scales toward basic or toward special damage. But some of them have like a 35-35 split. So you can have loaded a lot of your points into inside or the other and be fine because it's just evenly breaks down the middle. But the problem...
Did you find the auto rifle that had 175 and 175%? That's amazing.
That's awesome.
The biggest problem that you could run into if you're just focusing solely on the special elemental stat is you can have upgraded fully one of your weapons and not realize that the area you go into is like impervious to that element. So you're doing like 1-1-1-1-1, and you can't swap weapons
acid assault rifles don't work on guys that shoot acid. Whoops.
Pro tip.
Learned that the hard way.
Let's use the fire
to do acid swords. Whoops.
I had Paddy in the back of my head when I was going into Viridian. He was just like, there's. I walked in with an acid ability, and the guys have got acid about them. And I walked in with my 2 acid revolvers. Like, what's he on about? I'm doing damage. And then I got further in, and I just went, oh,
yeah,
oh.
Yeah, well, I walked in with my acid gun and my acid sword, and it didn't go great at first.
No.
So what do we think about the ability to break down your weapons, but also get stuff that you can put towards something else that you're doing up, and even with like a little bit of a random roll with it saying like you might get one of these as well.
Every loot game, or let me rephrase, every game that has loot should do this from now to for the end of time. I don't need to have, and I'm doing the weird thing because I can't let go of stuff. I'm saving one of each weapon that I find, except for sniper rifles, because I know I will never use sniper rifles. So I'm just scrapping those immediately. But I love the idea of, to picture Dark Souls 1 and picking up yet another, straight sword or something, and being able to break that down and get like a couple of Titanite shards. Well, that'll save me some times on upgrading some weapons, and like having the weapons feed into other weapons, I think is really smart and really good. I didn't play Neo, but Neo had something like this, I think, if I remember correctly. And every game where you pick up any kind of loot, I want to be able to break the loot down into its component parts, and I really like the if you break down a upgraded weapon, because every once in a while you'll get lucky and a good weapon will drop, like the class good as opposed to crude or flimsy, and you'll get more stuff back from that. Like you'll get higher level upgrade mats from scrapping that stuff, which I think is really good too.
It's just really smart as well.
Yeah,
it makes you look at the the previous stuff we played and just go like, why didn't you do this? Because it's really kind of cool.
And I really like the idea of the characters just like taking the gun, look at it, and going, nah, and just breaking it over their knee. Just picking up
I can see your character doing that, Pad.
Yep. Does it scale with strength? No, it's dead now.
So Dave, you finished the game sort of, and you're one-broing it as well, like Paddy.
Yes, it's going terrible, but I'm giving it my best shot.
Right, it's not great, is it?
It's hard.
So so in general, what have been your best times along the way? Why did you veer towards your choice of weapons, and what kind of look did you go for the character?
Well, like I said, I have those pointy head spikes. I do like in the character creation that when you do choose any of the metal face bits, you can change your hairstyle, but the little bits kind of clip through, but it looks great. So, yeah, you can have your pinhead look, but also have a dashing ponytail or, whatever you chose for your hairstyle. I think my favorite bits, and this is easy to do without doing any kind of spoiling, are those moments where you're slogging through an area, and the developers put a lot of thought and consideration into where they place their obelisks. A few areas do feel like they may have one too many, or the shortcuts may be a little bit redundant, but on the whole, each of them are paced out well enough that you feel like you're just about to run out of ammunition, or you have just no vials. You're on like one vial left or a 0, and you're just going, if it's just around the corner, please obelisk be there, and then it is. Or the more importantly, the environmental storytelling that lets you know an obelisk is around the corner is phenomenal. And
Paddy hinted about this on the last one.
God, it's so good.
Even with regards to there being kind of a tech upgrade nearby.
Yes, where the armor shrines will have different colored
things get sort of
cords.
Octopus-like,
As long as you see those tendrils, you're like, fucking that way. That's the way I need to go. Run to tentacles every single time. If you see a tendril, run that way.
Yeah.
At least you'll get an armor shrine, if not a checkpoint, and that'll help you later.
There is the aspect with the obelisks as well, where there's been a few points where I've seen one and I've gone like, oh, thank God, and then instantly it's been like, oh God, the enemy's back.
Yeah,
you've got to a certain point, and then you've got you reset with your ammo and your weapons, and you're like, oh no, I've got to walk out of here.
And a few times the enemies spawn like almost on top of the obelisk. So there's a few areas where you refresh yourself, and then you just kind of have to run back through some of the enemies and hope they don't hit you. You don't need those unnecessary syringe drains. I guess on point to the armor shrines, it's a phenomenal idea. So there's no weapon shops, there's no stores, there's no kind of upgrade center. It's all done through the obelisk. I think one complaint I would have is there's nothing to spend your bits on were you to have excess and be walking around
please
foolishly with 50,000
please
bits. Yes. But the armor shrines, as you find them and unlock them, your pitifully clothed prisoner begins to become mightily clad with probably the coolest looking armor as you complete each of the sets throughout the course of the game. So provided you've found all of them, or at least a good majority of them, the way you appear in the beginning isn't reflected by your majestically swooshing clothes you get when you're toward the end of the game. And that's a nice visual representation of how strong your character has become in
and your momentum through the game as well.
Yes.
I love how modular it is as well. So each shrine you find gives you different upgrades. And the characters, the NPCs, wear similar armor as well. Yeah. You can see their shoes are the same as yours. But each shrine you find, if it's, say, the ones for your grenades, will always make your grenade, pouches look a bit different. The ones for your medkits always make the medkit thing on your arm look a bit different. The ammunition ones always do your belt skirt thing. Different things will, the regular, damage ones are, just the massive chunks of armor. The elemental ones are the undershirts and the bits that go underneath. It's just really cool seeing, what's it going to change now? And you sort of see it shimmer in blue, ooh, new shoes.
And I think the color, you can change your color schemes on the fly. It doesn't cost you anything. You can revert at any time. But also the patterns. There's really fun patterns you kind of run across that'll stencil onto your armor.
My one complaint is they're a little bit too subtle for me. I want to be able to see it. I like my colours vivid.
They mentioned that there was some of the colors.
Yeah, they mentioned that there was a patch coming related to that stuff. I don't know if it was just not applying correctly, but when I change the color of my armor or get a new dye, it seems to only change my shoes for some reason.
Yeah, so it's small. If you go stand near a light and stare at it, you will see changes, but not great.
Yeah, that's been one of my. I have a few complaints about this game, none of which are affecting my enjoyment of it. But that's one of them. Is I feel like the fashion bits, the aspect of it is kind of low because you just can't really dress up your character. They give you all this stuff, but it doesn't look so dramatically different that I really want to. I want to mix and match and see what I want to. If you say that I have a armor pattern that's skull, I want to see skulls all over that motherfucker. That's it. I want to see skulls everywhere. That's my brand. So let's do this. But yeah,
here's
it's really
your
really
skull
subtle.
stencils.
So Paddy and Dave, for this one, you've been sharing the lore discoveries together. How's that been within the back and forth?
I'm upset with myself because I set up this whole End Lore 2018 platform and I've had to kind of fuck that into the bin because I've been quite enjoying it.
Yeah.
I think we kind of happened upon this together, didn't we, really? I remember kind of nipping through. I think there was a bit I found in the Cinderwood, oh, that person set the fire. Oh, I know who that is. Oh, shit. And you start kind of picking up things and remembering names. And I think when I realised that in the actual menu, like all the cenotaphs and all the memorial stones you pick up are all just there, and you can just go in and just read them. Like, you haven't got to go dig around, like, oh, where's that sword that had that thing on it? They're all just, like, there. And I remember sort of chatting to Dave a little bit, like, again, in the DMs, like, there's some good stuff here, actually. Like, this is not bad. And I think you started typing up stuff, and I went on my PS4, and I recorded a video. I just scrolled through it. Like, here's all the item descriptions that I have one at a time. And it took, like, 6 minutes. There's loads of it. But I know, like, Dave, you've been digging in quite a bit harder than I have. How big's the document now?
It is now, I think it's at 20 pages. Yep.
Jesus Christ.
Good lad. This is awesome.
Is that just 20 minutes of just like straight up transcription of, you know, memorial stones and war stones and memorials? It's just straight up like a searchable document for it. That has
it is, and that's what I wanted, because with the wiki, you can Control F and go through it, but with this, I can find keyword, and then every mention of said character or specific noun I can pull up and then index. And then what I'm doing is I've set at the end of the document a section for like the characters, not just NPCs, but the ones that are mentioned in the lore, because there's quite a few that don't make an actual appearance in the game, and putting out sort of like a relationship tree, because everything, as with a lot of the game, it all ties together, and all the little bits that you're fed don't mean a whole lot in isolation. And this is really something I've more clued in on my second playthrough, even just kind of running through the opening scenes and a few of the other cutscenes. There's no context for those when you run into it the first time, and they're actually pretty short. But on second viewing, and then combined with the actual what happens at the end of the game, it's like a bigger reveal. You're like, that's what that is. And it just makes so much more sense, and you're gaining more value through that. And that's what ultimately we want, you know, out of this sort of game, is to play through it again and not feel like you're just retreading the same ground, but kind of learning something or gaining, you know, a new experience out of the thing you've played before, without feeling like you're just spinning your wheels or just having a bit of fun. That's fine. But the fact that you can learn something again.
That it feels more personal to you, that
yes,
you're having this kind of compulsion and this sort of creeping wonderment, and those instances that are tying together, that, you know, the two of you are digging up and then cross-referencing, and that's drawing into the level of appreciation and curiosity that you've got to keep going, to keep playing, to keep finding stuff.
Oh, for sure. And it's just kind of feeding that, you know, that not really an idea, but that aspect of being able to say, oh, you know, I ran across this item talks about this guy. Do you think that's this person? You know, why is that there? What does that mean?
Even like the Nexus, the orbs, when you touch them, you get those cutscenes that are just like nice art. You know, on your first playthrough, it's very much like, here's some art, googly moogly, goo ma goo goo glue. That's what you get out of it. It's like, oh, that's pretty. On the second one, like, oh, I know about Googly and Magoo now. Oh, shit, they're just saying stuff. Like, the clues are there if you know where they are, but without context, they mean nothing.
They mean nothing. It's just some nice pictures, but not really.
You say as well that there are people that don't make an appearance in the game that are referred to in the lore. Does this mean that that if there's a second game, there's going to be a point where that person's mentioned and you're like, oh, this is cool?
They could,
possibly,
and
yeah,
because of what they're doing with the it's not really the pacing, but how they formatted this story. There's room for expanding on what happens at the end of the game, or just doing like an utter, here's what led up to these things. And unlike with some of the things in Dark Souls where you kind of don't really want to have seen, you don't need every answer to every question. I would like to see and go through some of these events.
I demand it. I need it before I die.
I do need to go through Yharnam, as it was.
One thing I will ask though, and obviously sort of I'm not as far in as the two of you, but this relates to Bren's dialogue, but do we sort of see or hear anything from? Because she mentions like the is it something like the Queen of Death or something, that if she gazed upon you, that you'd be ending stuff. Is there more to that as things go along? Because that's a fascination for me, because that's just terrifying.
Tell you what, how about we just give this the easiest answer? Yeah. Just you're going to get to a point and go, ooh, fuck. And like there's little tidbits, and particularly the stuff about the Queen of Death.
Man, that's my favorite shit in the world. Yeah.
Some of those lore descriptions you pick up are amazing, and even without context. Like, my favorite one is about the souls of the weak. Like, I'll give you it out of context. It won't make any sense. The souls of the weak are stored collectively. What does that mean? That's amazing.
Because I'm again, it comes back to the sort of childlike level of awe and fear, but there's something about the monster that's there that doesn't look at you, because there's always a part of you that just thinks any second now. And that is truly terrifying. That really sort of takes me back to sort of being really small and reading these sort of books and devouring every word and every page, and that's got me super excited.
Yeah, there is some good stuff, and obviously as well there's like several doors that you might have seen that you can't even get into. I mean, there's not many in the early game, I don't think, CJ. There's a couple in Viridian you might have seen. Those sort of teleport doors that you can't open because you haven't got enough Ceriums. They're behind the spider doors. Sorry, the spider doors. Spider doors. There is some stuff in there, particularly when you start getting the 30 decree doors. There is some stuff in those doors. And I remember Dave telling me over DM, like, dude, go in the Aria one. Go in the Aria Protocol one. It's really good. I'm not going to tell you anything. Just go in there. And then I went in there, and it was good. It was so good, and I need to talk to you about some of it, and it's going to be a while yet, and it upsets me.
I'm sorry.
There's a lot in this game that like begs discussion and makes anyone that's like progressed, a certain, even just each new level gives you something that you might want to discuss, and you're just kind of toe tapping, waiting. Come on, guys, hurry up! But without wanting them to go faster. To kind of, go through the game at their own pace, but just be at the end so we can talk about it. Like, that's what you want. And I think also to speak to what you were talking about with CJ, with the NPC dialogues, what they've done is used a lot of that as foreshadowing with any of the NPCs you talk to. The things they mention and what they talk about and their little bit of histories, you get to experience some of that, most of it. So the things that Orin might talk about, also you'll come to like get. The game itself gives more context to his statements as you move through it.
And like even like some of the gun descriptions have a little bit in there. Not much. There's not a lot.
There's not as much as I wanted in I think the weapons, but it fleshes out the world rather than the characters specifically.
Yeah. There's one or two that give you a couple of things about individual characters, but for the most part, it's world stuff. And it's world stuff in the past rather than world stuff as it is now. Like, a lot of it is like the before times. And again, you're kind of putting the story together of how we got there. There's some like actual genuine funny bits as well. Like, can I offer anybody, go on, rub my sphere.
Go on, I have a screenshot of that because that is great.
I blurted laughing at that. I nearly spat tea everywhere.
Is that the kind of floaty robot thing?
Floaty Golem. Yeah.
After Viridian. Who?
Yep.
Again, it's nice that that obviously the first person you see is sort of Bren, and that's like a really really detailed and heartfelt conversation. But then there's this kind of, I don't know, this almost sort of C3PO is sort of perkiness about like the robot. I was like, oh, that's really cool. It's it's a different colour to add to those that are there.
And I will say as well, like regarding NPCs, something the game does well. I have now fucked up 2 quests, one on my initial run and one on my One Bro run. When the quest you fuck up, the character dies at the point where you fucked up, and they just stay there, dead on the floor.
Really?
I think one of those was on Viridian with a guy that I dropped down and had a bit of a chat with, and then I had loads of those sort of Wolverine lads come in, and the next time I went in, just none of it.
That's Orin. He's now dead. He's dead forever. That quest is now done. You biffed it, same as I did. You biffed it. Well done.
That's a good way of putting it. That sounds like something that they might just appear on screen in sort of party cannon font.
Biffed it, lol. And the one on the Pexian, I've definitely fucked up because on my main gear up, and again, he told me to specifically not do a thing. I then decided to do the thing. I thought it was the right thing to do. He then told me I was dead to him and aggroed. It's like, oh fuck, okay.
Everyone does the thing.
Yeah, and you biffed it. Well done.
Did anyone save Orin then?
I did.
On my first game, on my first run, I definitely managed it because my auto shotgun ripped those guys to pieces. On my one row, it was a very different story. It did not happen. Oh, not even close. But he will survive, and he'll go back, and he's actually got some stuff.
Oh yeah, he's got a lot of shit with him, man. Like he'll tell you all kinds of stuff, and he's got some real interesting animations while he's doing it too. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
If you're on, I just want to mention this, but if you're on Discord at all, and you join, there's a public link for joining the Toadman's Discord server. They'll actually give you different ranks if you show them the trophies for completing NPC quest lines, which I think is pretty cool. So if you're already on Discord, like it's not a very active server, but it's cool being to have like kind of a direct response from developers sometimes, and
that's nice.
Yeah, it's actually it's been pretty chill. So
it's made me sort of pretty happy that on the one hand that they've noticed us. And that it's a real kick to find out that we've gone into this with a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of passion, and really banging the drum because we want people to play this. And going to work and then going on my break and just seeing that the devs have listened to the podcast is really fab. And from this side of the fence, I hope that. Because I look at some of the reviews the game's got, and some of we've all discussed that there's a lot of people that don't know about it as well. And I was saying to Pab that if I'd set up like a small studio and I poured this much heart and passion and talent into something, and people weren't getting it, it would be heartbreaking. If it was something that was this good. And I hope from this side of things that if they are listening in the studio, that they go like, Christ, somebody gets it, and that that inspires them in a way to just be proud of what they've got and what they've created by instinct, and to keep going, because. I don't know. I am smitten with this. This conversation is just making me even more excited to crack on further, and I just hope that that's hitting over their side as well. That people are this excited about something that Jesus Christ, I think some talent in that studio. I really, really do.
Do you know how when people talk about Dark Souls 1 nowadays, they talk about how great the lead up to Anor Londo is? But how the spokes afterwards aren't extremely exciting. This game makes like the lead up to that the moment is really great, and then everything that I've been doing since is even better and better and better and better. It's almost like they looked at those like individual spokes and was like, what if, and just let their imagination run wild with it, because it's been so exciting playing through the levels and doing everything. Like it's just really great. I'm on the second. I don't really know how to talk about this without spoiling it. I don't really want to spoil it, but I'm on the second post area. The second phase, but I'm on the second part of the second phase, I guess. Let's say that. And again, it's just one of those things where I feel like I'm playing through a place, and I'm as I'm going, I'm learning more about the place, and that's feeding into things that I'm trying to figure out about the world and all this other stuff, and it's just really, really good.
I like it when you find out where a thing you saw before goes. Bridge in Arden.
Yes, right, okay. Yes, absolutely.
Oh my god!
What a moment that is.
Like, there! I'm here now. That's where that goes. Son of a bitch.
It's one of those things where it's almost like if you had a shortcut from. I'm just going to kind of throw somebody out there. If you had a shortcut from Seath back to the Undead Burg, like it was that kind of mind blowing. Like what? How?
Oh, like the amazing one in Bloodborne from the Forbidden Woods, right up to the back of the clinic.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a perfect example.
Am I here?
Yeah, great example.
That's what they've done, I think, with a lot of the level design, is you specifically feel like it's a hub world. Gives you that Demon Souls feeling, but really it's Dark Souls 1 level design. At least it comes to build upon that.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's vertical in some places.
Oh, yeah, for sure, and that's great. It's nice that they played a lot with that verticality. But things connect all over the place, and it's so much fun that way.
I mean, this is one of the things where one of the reviews that I looked at the other day, and I sent a few bits to Pad and to Jeremy. One of the things that was put in the criticisms was extremely linear level designs that don't offer much in the sense of uniqueness. And obviously, I'm early on in the game, sort of compared to you folks. But from what you're telling me, that I mean, again, it's all about opinions and stuff. But I'm
on the same coin. It's like, are you playing the same game as us? Like, what linear level designs are you talking about, reviewer? I don't get it. By the way, while we're on level design, can I just, while we're on level design, something you touched on earlier, CJ, that the devs might be listening. I just want to address just something while we're here, while I've got the floor, if you will. Now you listen to me, right, Toad Man, Mr. Toad. Right?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You listen to me and you listen well, right?
Wow.
Right? Okay, Apexion, right? You know what bit I'm going to tell you about, right? Whose idea, right, was the hell staircase? Whose idea was that? Goodness me, I was pulling hair out on my regular run, on my level 1 run. I nearly stopped because I couldn't do it. It is, I would argue, harder and more bullshit than the Archers in Londo. It is one of the most infuriating things I think I've ever done.
Because you see, I was slightly aggrieved with Bellyflop Swamp, and then you went, yeah, you can just skip all of that, you can just walk past it, and I was like, holy what?
I did that by accident. Well, what do I can get down there?
Before I'd improved my dodge stats, that was just such a beast. It was just like, I was like, I've only walked a step back. Oh, now I'm in a crab plant.
Oh no, that's child's play compared to Hell Staircase. Because I remember Dave, I think you were sending me like, "Are you at the staircase?" Like, you were complaining about like, what does he mean? What staircase? And then as soon as I got there, I knew exactly which bit he meant. Whose idea was it to put all the teleporting green guys in one place, with a place with no cover?
Oh,
just no. It's just evil. It's pure evil. And on my one bro run, I didn't think it was even doable. I made it. I used every TRM syringe I had. I used several other consumables. Like I used combined patches. I used acid patches, and it still took me about 30 goes to get up this damn staircase.
Do you call them TRM syringes?
The ones that are the optional ones that you can pop like that's what they're called.
Now I'm thinking to the way that I refer to them, and I just seem. In my head, it sounds like a diet supplement, because I just look at them as trim syringes. Have you put on weight over Christmas? I'll never lose that weight. Well, now you can with trim syringe. Make yourself look like a junkie, but really, you're losing weight. With none of the addiction and all of the protein.
You stick it in your arm, your character just gets skinnier. Like, no, this isn't what I wanted.
No, but you get better. So, trim syringe.
Give me HPs. Patrick, that staircase can eat my dick.
Patrick, so now's your time.
Hello.
Since last time,
yeah,
stuff has happened.
Yeah.
I want to know all of it. Also, relating to what Jeremy was just saying, you were saying that the late game stuff is just tremendous and celebratory.
It's
and
stupid
made of
how much I enjoyed it. It is dumb how much it gets good at the end. And not to say it isn't good, but it ramps up. I'm going to speak as vaguely as I can because I really don't want to spoil this right now because it is just delicious. But when you kind of hit the middle point, you've cleared out the first 3 areas, you get your Lord Vessel moment, you have that little bit where, now everything's opened up a little bit more and you can fast travel, woohoo, enjoy, go explore all these new horrible places, which is cool, and you sort of go off and you do all that, and again, like, you check off your big boys, as it were, like, you get given a task, go kill John, Margaret, and Philip, go on, off you go. And you pop all 3, and it's right, all right, you've now got something else to do, something even bigger, and you enter the bit, and you stand there, and you just look at it like, what the fuck? Where am I? What is this? What is even happening in this place? How do you design this? How do you make this look this good? Like, so I'm going to say, like, some of the best bits of, like, when you're doing a Destiny raid, and you come into, like, a bit that's just huge and gold and magnificent, and it's just like, okay... Mm-hmm. Woo! Like the scale of it. The closest thing I can think of to what we were doing, probably like, here's a good one. On the King's Fall raid on Destiny, when you walk out and you've got that bit where you've got to do the jumps across the kind of the top of the shuttlecrafts, but like the scale of it, like, okay, I'm literally in space right now. I am out in the nothingness right now. This is ridiculous. It's a bit like that. You come out to these like gorgeous looking like book covers, like sci-fi book covers.
Oh my!
Like, I'd read this book that I'm looking at. This is great.
Never judge a book by its cover, but
in this case,
I'd read it.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, I'd read it. I'd give it a go. And I'm glad I read it because it was a good read.
A good book cover is an art to making a book purchasable.
And like the ending area is really good, and it's a little bit more linear by the time you hit the end. That's not a problem because you know you're at the end of the game. Like, you feel it. Like, okay, this is we're getting there now. Like, we are close now. And then after a couple of runs, and I would say that the run to the boss on the last bit is the only time I think I've thought that the obelisks weren't placed right, because I think this game's done a fantastic job of eliminating that terrible boss run where you get there and everything's empty. You're like, well, I've got nothing to do this boss with now. I guess I better do it perfectly. This always, like, the game always puts an obelisk near your boss, so you're never doing that bullshit run. Like, I've got to get through all that again and then do this as well. Ugh. The end is the only time where I got a little bit annoyed because it was a bit further back than I would have liked, with enemies that I didn't quite like fighting. But I got there. Like, I practiced a few times and I got there. And then, like, the ending actually left me a little bit speechless. I was staring at my screen, dumbstruck, with my mouth open. And it's well done. Well done on bringing it to a crescendo that I did not expect. Absolutely. And now watching back, like, oh my god, they totally set it up. They totally set it up and I didn't even see it. I'm dumb. Dave, you've been there. To back me up. What the fuck? Dave? Okay, so the audio died during my little rant there, but basically I was going to throw to Dave and we realised he wasn't there anymore. I had been talking about the ending of the game, how the ending does telegraph it a little bit. It's all there if you know what to look for, and then just how they pulled it out. Dave, how did that ending, or the last chunk of game and the ending, how did that hit you? Because it broke me.
It was phenomenal. Yeah, there's a little bit of telegraphing, but it's still, you don't think they're going to go there, but they do, so it works, I guess. Mm-hmm. I don't know, it was unexpected and quite welcome, I think, with what they did with that, and I don't know, visually it just kind of is different than what you've kind of come to expect for the rest of the what's leading up to that.
Ooh, curious.
Yeah, as I was telling everyone, just hurry up and get to the end. I mean, take your time, but finish.
I likened it before to like some of those bits in a Destiny raid where you're like, oh fuck, look at this place. It's that again, isn't it? You just kind of pop in like, oh look, I'm in a book.
Yeah, it's more visual than the areas you explore in the beginning of the game.
Oh,
I don't know. There's just more to it. Although what there is sort of simple. I don't know. It's difficult to explain. It's something. I don't want to spoil it, so you have to go and just see it.
You know you're at the end.
Yes.
Oh, cool. So Dave and Pat, talk to me about Wombro.
Don't do it. It's not a good idea.
I can't advise it.
Yeah, or as I've heard some people call it, a no leveling run.
I've been toying with the idea of Immortal Unchained.
The Unchained run.
The One Chained.
The One Chained.
One Chain is good. Yeah, One Chain is good.
Yeah, so I, in my bravado, and just wanted to put my balls just right out there for everyone to see, I just had that thought of, I wonder if you can do it.
Let's take this back a bit, because in DMs on Twitter, you were like, think I might have a go at a Wombro run, just see what happens. And then literally, like, within no time, I've just beaten Viridian. I'm like, what? And then he's in Apexian, and then all of a sudden he's further on than I am without having leveled up 35 times.
This is where the race is. Can you beat the game before I beat it at level 1?
I'm just not as good at games.
I will say, like, it is far slower going than my initial run, obviously. But I mean, just given the fact that I did a little bit of research before I started to see. I think I DM'd you, Jeremy. Like, what are the stats on the Legion auto shotgun you find in Viridian? Oh, it's 16 and 8. Well, can't use that on any of the classes. Never mind. That was my idea. Fuck.
What have you gone with then?
Well, I picked the marksman for mine. I figured if I'm going to hit like a weak baby, I might as well hit as hard as I can being a weak baby, and I thought a sniper rifle might be a good problem solver. So far, not really proven to be, actually. My machine gun I found that comes nicely under stats, and my energy-based pistols. Oh my god, energy damage, everybody. Energy damage is the best one. They're getting me through. The sniper rifle just kind of comes out every now and again. I did use it a couple of times in the boss fights, because I thought, in the early game, when I can kind of get some easy damage in, I'll just go pam, 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 and just, like, once that's done, then go to my more agile weapons, because you do roll and move faster with, handguns and machine guns. Like, I find sniper rifles slow me right down, and when shit's kicked off, I can't deal.
I didn't know that you moved faster with lighter weapons. That's interesting.
Well, it seems to be the sniper rifle, because you take the shot and then you kind of reload it, and that you still walk slow while you're doing that. I'm like, no, go fast, roll now, get out of the way, dum-dum. That's why the Soothsayer Talana took me a while, and that's why the boss in Viridian, what's he called?
The annoying
I don't
guy.
remember all of the boss names. Like, I know I met a dude named Janissary, and that just sounded so weird. It stuck in my head, but I have no idea where he is, who he is, or when I fought him.
Ravager Commando, that's the one.
No, Ravager Commander, not Commando.
That's the one. And
I am here in Viridian, and I can't do really Schwarzenegger impression.
Yeah. Once I got to, like, the second phase where he summons in his dudes, I was okay. It only took me out 4 or 5 goes once I got there, but to get to that phase took me about 15, 20 goes. I just couldn't get the rhythm of it. Like, he kept just, like, doing that earth smash thing. And, I'm down. Well, I'm dead. I might as well jump in the sea. And I did that a couple of times. Like, well, this run's done. Never mind. Just off I go. Death now. And I found, again, like, the best strategy I found with the bosses is just ignore the ads. Just avoid them. Just shoot the boss. If you shoot the ads, you're not going to have enough bullets left to shoot the damn boss. And I'm not going to use ammo packs. What do you think this is, a consumables run? Fuck that. I can't buy them. I'm not going to spend them unless I really need to. How dare you? But yeah, I found, like, having to limit to what weapons I use, and, like, you are limited. Like, you can't use those legendary yellows and purples and greens even. I don't think one green I found I can even use so far. And it's really, really limited the amount of damage I can output. My strategies for dealing with enemies before, which was just stand behind them, auto shotgun, brap, 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 you dead, now doesn't work because I can't output that much damage, so I have to focus more on dodging and moving and rolling, and I've got the dodge aspect on almost continuously. It's the only one I've got on all the time because it's just handy. Like, I can move faster, I can dodge more. I've just hit past the third boss, or the fourth boss really, in Apexian. That's the first 3 areas cleared out now. I'm doing the bit that happens between phases, and I can't do it. Again, not saying anything, I don't want to spoil it, but a thing happens after that, and I couldn't do it. And then I needed to take an angry break because I did that this morning, and I had to put the controller down and go for a little walk around the kitchen and go, okay.
You're doing like super well though, but when we spoke yesterday, you were like, I think this is going to come to an end in Apexion, and then all of a sudden, oh, I've done that.
Don't make it sound as blasé as that. It was all caps. Oh my god, I've done it. I think I DM'd all three of you at the same time. Like, I've done it. I've got up the fucking stairs. I have used every consumable that is useful. I have used 10 trim syringes. I have used 10 of them. I have used ammo packs. I have used combined patches. I have bullshitted my way up this thing as slowly and as carefully and as snail-like as I could achieve, and then bolted the last section with my heart in my mouth. Just obelisk, hold X. Yes! And I put the controller out and went for a little shout. Like, ah! I genuinely thought the run was going to end on hell stairs. I did not think it would get past it because I just couldn't. And again, I was DMing Dave back and forth. I was like, are there any other shortcuts? Is there anything I've forgotten? There's the little ladder, which doesn't really help. Is there anything else? It's like, is there a path on the right? No, that's not a path on the right. That's somewhere else. Oh, fuck, we're absolutely going to have to do this the hard way. Jesus Christ. But even in terms of bravado, I think I might have been eclipsed by you there, Dave, because you've gone straight to Apexion, right?
Yeah, what I had planned to do was run and grab all of the armor shrines you can possibly get in that section of the game, because you need every little bit of damage armor that you can get your hands on. Almost anything in the beginning of the game one-shots you, and that goes doubly so in Apexion. So I doubled back, and I'm now at the boss of Viridian, and it does my heart good to hear that you bashed against it 15, 20 times, because I think I've tried about 9 times so far, and I get him about almost to where he's going to summon the ads, and you can't make a mistake, and I'm getting clobbered by the large, like, baseball bat whiff he does. Yeah. Because if it just touches you, you're dead.
Oh god, and the timing's difficult. It's that slow hit. It's the smelter demon slow hit. Like,
it's that slow. You have to wait
dodge.
It is the range. His weird bladed staff is like really long, and my dodge, unless you're already almost out of range, isn't enough. And I have the dodge aspect equipped. One thing that I will definitely say is attempting this. It very much. It makes so much difference what class you pick, and I may have goofed and kind of screwed myself over. I picked the Hunter class. It has the second highest starting, I think it's the top 2 stats that determine what weapons you can equip, but they're not as high as the Rogue or whichever one you picked. The Raider.
The Marksman,
the Raider.
I think? Yeah.
Or the Marksman? Yeah. That one has
I chose Marksman.
Yeah, I think you had like 12 or 14 on the Perception. But this has slightly less than that, which means I can't equip anything except for the weapons you start with. But what it has in exchange is it has the highest insight and basic weapon stat. So any damage I'm doing is a little bit more with those weapons, but I don't think the trade-off was ultimately worth it, because I'm running around with like the basic machine gun, or I guess assault rifle, and the hunter pistol, and my pistol's doing more damage than the assault rifles. They're going through the game. They're not as tenable as the rest of the weapons for some reason. I just don't think that they have a high ammo capacity, but they're not putting out as much rounds per second as, like, say, the SMG, and the damage is being trumped by the pistols. One thing that's nice is, I guess we discussed it in the beginning, the special abilities that your weapons have, that power move. The only one that I'm finding even near worth it is the burst effect, which thankfully both of the weapons have. So you can unload, like, I think it's a half of your clip in one go, which is definitely helping on most of the enemies and bosses.
Nothing with that. I've got precision shot on both, and it's just like,
it's not worth it. But the burst effect fires quickly. It doesn't take too long to charge up, and you're unloading, twice the shots per firing. It's working with the pistol, but I'm I'm dubious as to how effective it's going to be moving forward. Just seeing how much trouble I'm having with this Viridian boss. But I don't know. I'll keep plugging on, and
I would say I've been tempted to go back and pick the colour that starts, because one of the classes starts with an auto shotgun, doesn't it? I can't remember which one it is, but one of them starts with one, and that is just like, that's my special boy. Like, that's the one I like to use because it's my favourite. And
that's what I've used for pretty much the whole game the other time. So that's another thing, is I know the range on that, and then what's really hurting me is I spent 48 hours meleeing everything. Now that's like an untenable option. Your dagger does nothing. So I'm used to running up on people and just being able to dispatch them in a couple hits, and that's not working. So your playstyle is completely
poke 'em with a toilet tube.
Yeah, it's a wet noodle, just wet noodle slap.
So no melee only challenge runs in the future. That's not going to happen.
No. That would be really. I'm sure
don't even know if that's doable.
I don't.
I
know.
don't even know if that's possible.
Maybe not as one bro, but of course you're talking to Daddy Frosthammer there. So yes. I'm guessing that's now a fascination for you for the whole game.
If you're able to dump all of your stats into strength, and meet, I think that's pretty much the only stat qualification you need for the melee weapons. I don't know. There's some of the bosses you can't hit though.
Yeah. Some of the melee weapons need finesse, and they're not great, to be honest.
No, it's better going. Yeah. You're best with the mauls, and then there's a hammer you get late game. That's one of the best non-elemental. I mean, it might be the best non-elemental weapon, at least that I've come across. But I've got the frost hammer, and then a giant legendary fire sword that I found the other night that I've been slowly upgrading. So I just can't. I can't wait to go back into Ice World and go fry them up. Yeah, there's a fire maul that's the companion piece to the frost one. It has slightly higher special scaling and maybe the knockback, but the damage output is otherwise the same. I use those for the rest of the game until I found that one hammer, but the hammer itself, those two weapons, provided the enemy is not proof against that one element, will one or two shot like everything in the game, aside from bosses.
I had that first. I think I did the set with the frost hammer. Like, yep, this is my best melee weapon by miles. Let's take her out. Let's go forward. What have we got here? Oh, it's a frost boy. Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Back to the obelisk we go.
The fire enemies are more plentiful in the back half of the game.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. There's 2 areas full of them.
Yeah, and that was my launcher element, so while I was enjoying blasting everything with the huge grenade rockets, that didn't work in the part that I needed it to. That was the strongest weapon I had, and then it's like, all of a sudden you can't use it anymore. Have fun doing like 0 damage.
What's the gameplay with the launcher? Because I tried using it, and I mean, obviously I didn't invest any like upgrade points in it or anything, but I didn't really like it. Just didn't seem like it was worth it. Like, what value were you getting out of it?
It depends on the launcher you get. That's the one weapon class that I found that each type of launcher is completely different on how the projectiles land, and a few of them, even if you're locked on, you're not guaranteed to hit. There's one elite. It's whatever the purple class of weapon is. Epic, I think that's the epic class. It fires 2 rounds in a spiral pattern, and you have to like learn where that spiral kind of is going to connect. So there's a couple wasted shots you'll have, but the damage output, that one was the one that is fire elemental. I was, if not outright killing everything in 1 or 2 hits, it was maybe the 3rd shot would work, and it has pretty decent. I don't think it was like 16 rounds that it holds, and then you can find a armor shrine that increases your ammo capacity by like 20%. So that definitely helps.
I found a couple of those.
Either sniper rifles. God. Sniper rifles, that's probably your best bet to get.
That's the one I used. I thought they all fired like that.
No,
because I have one of them. Again, I have one. I think it's that one. It must be because it does the little spiral shot. Because I ended up busting it out because I was banging my head against one of the big boys. Mm-hmm. The one in the woodsy place. And I was like, oh, maybe if I do like one big hit every now and again, that'll be okay. I can see where to shoot, but I can't do it all the time. I'll just shoot him once with a big hit. And it was like missing half the time, and I was just like, why? Why do you spin so? What kind of garbage weapon class is this? I didn't know they were different.
With Ravager Commander, where I was like, I was trying different weapons out, and I was like, right, I'll try a grenade launcher. I just got into the boss battle, and it just arced right over his head, landed on the other side of the battlefield. I was like, right, maybe next run then.
Yeah.
On the topic of grenades, grenades, everyone, useless or very useless?
I'm not very good at them.
I don't understand.
Better once you have more of them.
I have like 2 right now, and they're not super useful to me. Like it seems like the enemies move towards you quick enough that they just like walk past your grenade, and like I do with all of the enemy grenades at this point.
They're only good for the shield guys.
Fair.
Like there's
not
the walking ones. It's the shield barrier producing dudes that just set up a shield. If you arc that over the top or the side, it'll blow up the shield and do splash damage against the enemy. It usually takes off about half their armor.
Oh,
but
sweet. God damn it, I never tried that. I just sort of throw them into clusters and hope, and it's like, you did 10% damage to each one. Like, well, that was pointless.
No, it helps on that one bit with like all those shield dudes. But I don't know.
I found that I'd always end up at net loss because like you slow down when you throw it. Like, I've been shot 6 times. Well,
I would throw them retreating. If I'm gonna use that, because the guys did. Yeah, you're right that they do come toward you and some of them pretty quickly. If you walk backwards and kind of throw it toward the ground, don't throw it so high up, they'll run into the grenades.
Oh.
There's also an achievement if you blow yourself up, so that's happened.
I somehow did that. Yeah, and I don't know what triggered it, because I think I just died, but I guess I was doing something weird at the time, because I did trigger that trophy, but I didn't understand how I had killed myself.
So I'll jump in with my kind of adventures then, being the scrub of the group.
In the back of the class.
Yeah, I will once again preface this by saying that my hours are wonky, both in terms of length and what time I'm starting and finishing each day. And that's not to say that I'm making excuses, because I'm not making excuses, but more than that, I think the game is special, and I want to kind of have all my faculties available to play it, to not have my concentration failing or be bleary-eyed or kind of resent it. I want to be in the moment to experience all of it, if you will. So yeah, since last time I've been making my way through Viridian, sort of chipping away at it, venturing, trying to grind a bit here and there to get my levels up to where new weapon drops were required. On a recent video about Bloodborne, Danny O'Dwyer mentioned that the game isn't difficult, that you're just bad at it to start with. You work your way through the world, you begin to know it, you understand it, you remember it, and you become better and better. That the game distills a childlike awe and wonder that very few games manage. And that resonated here, because that's exactly the experience I'm having with Immortal Unchained. The last time I wandered into Viridian with a degree of swagger after beating the boss of Arden, and like Jeremy was saying, took 4 steps and was immediately clobbered by a big lad running full pelt at me. I walked into this new forest area absolutely terrified, with Paddy's words of how big the actual area is, and how different to Arden. So even up to last week, I've been chipping away further, getting a bit further, going through Bellyflop Swamp, dealing with your Wolverine boys, or what they call is it the Warriors of the Jungle or the Jungle Warriors?
I like Wolverines. I've been calling them Wolverines ever since. Yeah.
I've been sort of leveling my weapons and learning the lay of the land. And you were right, Pad, that it is bloody huge, and there's loads of twists and turns, and even as far as I can see, the points where it folds back in on itself, there's a sheer level of genius in that design. So Viridian reminds me a lot of World 2 and Demon's Souls, as I was saying, like that you go deeper and deeper in, and you can't turn back. In this game, you can't run away sort of to the Nexus. I mean, you can, but there's that fear that you've got this far by the skin of your teeth and you might not make it back again. Bellyflop Swamp. Particularly that early bit where every twist and turn seems a tubby acid lad rising from the ground and pegging it towards you, and then sort of explodes in a bubble of dutty fizzy mist. Pressing on, there was no point where I figured out I got a measure of what the level was going to throw at me. So it wasn't like, this is what this level is doing. Yeah, this is fine. I'll just chink, 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 fight that guy, and yes, it's all is good. I was constantly paranoid as I made my way through. As I alluded to earlier, there's that point where you're trying to judge how wide an amount of ground you've got, how far you can see in the distance. And for me, it was like, I got like fire pistols and snipers, and I'm like, am I going to be expecting somebody over there, or are you going to come out from just to the left or the right, or God, at times coming from behind me? You dirty bastards. So then came the boss battle, and my word, what a boss battle. In general, I'm not really that much of a fan of boss battles, but damn, as Jeremy might say.
Damn, y'all, damn. Y'all get a little dip there, boss battles? Hot damn. That shit had me running.
Talking about tootsies and make me go squeak.
Like a bushy old cat in a room full of rocket chairs.
See, that my impression was spot on after all, and the real language was revealed. The real Jeremy Greer is out of his cupboard. Ravager Commander. I walked into the arena, sort of fella fizzes in, has numerous attacks, sort of smashing his axe into the ground, creating a groundswell that widens as it pushes outwards, and can knock the stamina right out of you as it kicks you clean off your feet and leaves you vulnerable. You're getting close, and there's that axe swing around that he does that's instant death most times. I think at best I had like a sliver of health at the end of that. Then there's that jump in the air and ground smash, followed immediately by jump in the air and ground smash. So I went in with my weapons being energy sniper, and fire pistol. Got murked. Fire pistol seemed to be my handiest weapon simply because it was reloading quickly, and my snipers wouldn't get the next shots in the chamber before I had to dodge out of the way for another attack. I was running in, and rather than thinking that the boss was too hard or that I wasn't good enough, there lay this sort of instant adrenaline that I just hadn't figured things out. So what had I learned and what lessons were to be gained? So I dropped a sniper for a carbine. Figured I'd try something with a little bit more kick than the pistol, both damage-wise and hopefully with a similarly feasible quick reload. Got in, definitely doing better. The carbine's attack was knocking the stamina away from the boss too, which I didn't expect. But if I was still getting battered by those long-range attacks... So I figured I need to get my dodging ability up to speed. Went out grinding a bit and kicked it up by 3 levels. Went back in, doing crazy well. And then the boss changed the game. And if we're following through with Paddy's naming him sort of Ravager Commando, it would be like, do you like the Beatles? I get by with a little help from my friends.
Oh.
Thanks.
Oh.
Well, what is it, emote?
Oh.
Which he does, which makes me laugh. So he's down to a quarter of a health left, and he stands there, arms out wide. Well, what is it? Someone's in the fellas on either side of the arena. One kicking out Gatling rounds, one the other grenades, both of them acid. I got confused, got hit lots, died. Figured I needed to switch out to the sniper at this point. Maybe I could just take them out with the available rounds in the chamber, but that left my eye off the boss, and the boss was doing the most damage. So I go back in again. At this point, having learned to close the distance down, so the widening groundswell attacks couldn't fan out and swipe me down. I was watching for the side swipe and dodging back, and then dodging around to sort of try and shoot its weak point. Side fellas arrive, and I'm hell for leather on the boss at this point. Whether they chuck my way, does whatever it will, boss is going down. So I'm in close like a fucking bullet mad ballerina, and down. I screamed on Saturday morning. Jesus Christ. So I interacted with the Nexus, spoke to the floating robot fella, walked out like a king. To more level.
Oh, so God, it pulls such a good bit on you. Like, oh, by the way, you're not done.
Yeah,
you thought that was the end, but no, you have to keep going for a while longer.
So I strode on. Certain doors now are opening to me that hadn't before. You know those ones with the little belly button in the middle. So yes, I was like, oh, that's cool. Everybody's going like, oh, that's weird, but yes, I do know those doors. So other doors were still sort of mysteriously locked, asking for something that I hadn't got. And then enemies, lots of enemies. I shot, I ran, I panicked, I ran some more. I may have died. I may have found another obelisk completely by fluke. There was no doorway to the hub, wherein I knew the next level, Apexion, was already available to me back there. And I knew it would cost a certain amount of bits. But so this is me then trying to make my way back through the entire level to the start. I'm like, this will be fine. I'll learn lots of bits. I'll spend them on levels. I'll be golden. So I'm going back through the level backwards, and it's equally taxing. And then I'm trying to find my way, and I thought it might be a bit tougher. My gun's better. I'll have more boing in my souls. Now I've got the dodge ability going a bit more. But died a few times on the way back. Thought I'd stop off and batter that mid-level boss that's just wandering around belly full up a swamp. But no, that fella is tough.
He's real.
He has a health bar bigger than me in real life, and frost missiles.
I just want to say that I know... I don't know if you've beat him yet, CJ, but I beat that guy shortly after beating the boss of that area, and I did it legit, and I didn't rely on any kind of weird dodging mechanics or letting him kill himself or anything like that. I'm just saying. I just wanted to say that out loud, just in case anybody here...
do what was once coined about me at university, paddying.
I did not paddy that boss.
Because you see, I thought that because I was a sniper boy, that I'd take him out on a ledge, when really that's kind of pandering into his frost missiles. So maybe down on the ground is more of an option.
He'll still shoot you with those, and then he'll hit you with a hammer as well. There's no good place to be.
It's good to know.
The only place I found that was good was behind the pillar, and just run around and let him kill himself by millimeters each time.
It takes a while, about 10, 12 minutes.
It's not quick. No. It's akin to, I don't know, maybe sort of throwing sponges at the wall and a bit of water's getting on him, and eventually he'll drown. It just takes a while.
It just made me laugh because I saw him wandering around that level when I was going, and just thought probably just a bit tougher than a normal enemy. He's got like a bigger gun, looks like a bit of a chunkier boy. It'd be fine. And then when I actually interacted with him and I saw that energy bar, I was just like, oh, mama.
The thing as well, he doesn't look like he's like not supposed to fight him. Like, yeah, he's down there. Like, you can totally avoid him, but you don't realise because you see him and you're like, yeah, I'm having a go at him. Yeah,
he's just having a saunter, isn't he?
He looks like a big boy.
He's just having a nice stroll.
It's the Titanite demon outside of Andres in Dark Souls 1, right? Like, you get to it and you're like, how am I ever going to kill that guy? Oh, I'm not. I'm literally just going to run past him for a little while.
There's no fog gate. There's nothing. I can just leave. I can just leave.
Why am I here?
So yeah, I get back to the hub. I open a few chests that I hadn't been able to before, spend a few bits, and open the gateway to Apexion. I walk through, and it's as if someone had crossed Dranglake Castle and Tron. I felt so happy. It was raining hard. You got the distant buildings, like sort of chalk sketches across the hues of the sky, all stabbed with hot pink neon. Made my way in. Oh, look, there's a new enemy. So it seems quite lithe, quite tall, holding an energy shield, moving unnaturally fast. First one, I took it out from distance with decent success. Second time I missed, and it began moving its way towards me like something from The Grudge. It's just unnerving, that kind of... And it got closer, and suddenly a brief bit of targeting and energy weapon. It closer still, and it punted me with shield. Like, it's another one of those things whereby they seem to be messing with you at the start of a level where you think that you might be alright, and then you get to Viridian and they just come at you straight away. And this one you're like, oh, I got a little bit of breathing distance, that fella looks fine. Oh shit. So on the other side of that, the size of the enemy makes it far easier to knock off balance with my mace. So if I can get it to drop its guard or hit it and get rid of a chunk of health and stamina, I'm running like a madman to swipe it afterwards. And And then came the teleporting fellas. Fizz in, target you, very painful sniper shot, then fizz out, and could be further on, could be behind you over there, could be in the living room, doesn't matter. There's nothing is out of the ordinary on that one. So here I am with my sniper out, first sign of them, click lock on and boom, then make a dash like the Flash and whoop it down. But there are long stretches of nothing in the best way that build such tension. Rooms to walk into with desks and
sofas
flickering
and shit.
computer monitors, which I hid in at times. I'm not gonna lie to you.
You're among friends, don't worry, I did it too.
Yeah,
they're
breathing rooms where
rooms.
you're just like, and you're just like, I need one of those little airport bags where, airplane bags where you're like, just to kind of get my breathing back.
Well, did you know they can teleport into them? Because I had one very, very bad panic at one point. Like, no, why are you here? Oh dear.
Yes. Absolutely. Not those enemies, but later on there's a different type of... The Toadman loves teleporting enemies, y'all. There's a different type that's in a later stage where I thought I was totally safe in a closed room, and then all of a sudden, surprise! And I'm immediately dead.
I would say there is definitely a running theme throughout the enemies that I hate the most, and the word teleport is the word.
But Jeremy was saying that Apexion reminded him a little bit in terms of like tension as Tower of Latria, which I can 100% see. But also it put me in mind of 4-2 in Demon Souls, where you've got the fellas that, when you're on the really sort of slim walkways, and you've already got your sort of see-through slender guys that are coming towards you, but you've got those ones that teleport in behind you, and it's like touch of death. It reminded me of that as well, but
that's true.
I'm still too acclimatized to Apexion, but fuck, it's amazing. The game makes me feel things. That zen moment when your adrenaline's going whoosh and your mind's concentrated and your pleasure centers are all, this is the best. I am genuinely terrified to go back to Apexion. It's freaking me the shit out.
Not to worry you, but you're not at the worst bit. Yeah, you're not at the worst bit yet.
Yeah.
It gets...
Do we feel that the game has maybe sort of veered into almost a little bit of the survival horror that survival horror games have forgotten?
A little bit, maybe.
Yeah,
I can kind of see like that kind of, I've got this much health, I've got these many bullets, I have to get to that obelisk. How the fuck do I get there? And because these guys teleport in, they could be anywhere. You can be walking down a thing thinking, I think I'm okay. Boof. Oh, bollocks. Where is he? And I like that once they've appeared, if you shoot them and they don't kill them and they move, you do see a little green trail that shows you which direction they've gone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah. Yes. No, watch it next time. You'll see it
invaluable to track them down. Absolutely. Yeah.
It is. It's helpful. You'll still get hit a few times. Like, my best advice is if one appears, go near somewhere that's a little bit twisty-turny, like a corner or a cover or like an edge or somewhere, because you can at least hope that 50-50 you'll be behind a wall when it spawns in and you'll be okay. If it's behind you, you're basically done. That's what a lot of the problem with the stairs is. Too many of them, not enough cover.
If you're on those areas when they're doing their teleport and there's any kind of barrier, I found it helped most to get behind the barrier and then just rotate your camera, so that way you're immediately looking behind you, because they can't hit you from the other side. Generally, the beams won't go above a certain height, and that way the shotgun helps a lot because you can stagger them and then they won't teleport, or at least not immediately.
CJ, I just wanted to tell you that where I'm at in the game, I was terrified of Apexion 2, and now where I'm at, I can't wait to go back there and clean it up. Like it's going to be so.
I'm going to holiday in Apexion.
Exactly.
I'm going to move into one of those buildings because it's relaxing.
You bring the trim syringes, I'll bring the cold patches. We're going to have a great time.
It's a party.
Let's crack open a cold patch with the boys. The run back is good. Have you found any obelisks in there yet, CJ, or are you still kind of tickling out of the door?
I found one.
Okay.
Because early on I kind of I was making my way around and just like, I can drop down to here. I'll just go around here. Oh, it's an obelisk. So yeah, I have found one, but that's about it thus far.
Yeah, there's a second one you're coming up to soon, which is like above. Well, I found it to be above the natural path. I saw it before I reached it. It's like, oh, I can see it there. How the fuck do I get there? And then you kind of
I did the same thing.
Wheel back, and on that obelisk, look around because there is an NPC a couple of like walkways away that I nearly missed, and he's very cool.
Oh, sweet.
Just keep your eye open. On obelisk number 2, just keep your eye open. Have a little look around. Explore the kind of the walkways around you. He's around there. He's really cool, and I nearly missed him, and I'm glad I looked around because it's a good bit.
So from here then, I mean, it continues to be a point of interest between the folks I know that have picked up the game and are spellbound by it, which is everyone that I've spoken to. But then to contrast that to the reviews the game's gotten and the way that the Souls community just seems to be apathetic or about it. Where do you? It's quite the dichotomy between the two, because it's like I say, even with something like Neo, which was hugely popular. Sony obviously doing the promotion on that. It was an early PS4 Pro game, so there was that factored in. But there was still, I'd say, a 50-50 split from people that loved Neo and people that hated it. But everybody seemed to want to have an opinion on it. And yet this one, like I said, Jeremy knows one person that's not clicked with it. Everybody I know has just gone hell for leather, like genuinely spellbound by it, bewitched by it. And yet, I look at some of those reviews and I see other bits, and I'm just... again, it's all about opinions, but I read those reviews and it's not the game that I'm playing.
Would you argue that there's a little bit of the old... I'm going to bring it up, and I'm going to invite myself to this now. Like what happened with Dragon's Dogma. The reviews were all over the place with that, weren't they? And then, but people that were getting this is weird and brilliant. What are they on about?
Yeah.
A bit of that there, isn't there? Yeah.
With Dragon's Dogma back in the day, you got Matt Lees that was sort of banging the drum for it, and I think that sold a huge amount of copies of the game and was the first point that I knew of Matt's work as well. But yeah, you're absolutely spot on. Matt was celebrating all the quirks and all the weirdness and the stuff that worked and the stuff that didn't, and that definitely got me interested in Dragon's Dogma, where I wouldn't have gone near it. In fact, my initial impression when I saw the trailer was like, oh, Capcom's seen Skyrim, have they? Which is pretty embarrassing looking back. But yeah, it is a strange one between those two pockets, and I keep venturing onto the other side to try and ascertain what's cracking off, and it just sounds a million miles away from the things that I'm experiencing, which is a strange one.
I can only echo what you said. I've read a few reviews now. I've finished it. I can I just read with impunity now. I don't care. I can look at anything now and look online. And again, it's the really sort of lukewarm critical reaction. I haven't seen any reviews that are it's amazing. We're banging on about it.
No, not one.
We are banging on about it, and
Sunlight Blade was did that brilliant half an hour video as well, which was fantastic.
That was proper good. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, really detailed, really honest, really passionate, top stuff. But beyond that...
Well, I hope you're enjoying the fact that we are the lore community for this then.
Absolutely.
Who's going to be the body video of Immortal Unchained? Who's going to make it there first?
Paddy Video.
Oh no,
Paddy Video. I love it.
Good night.
So, with regards to wow, and I thought my Jeremy impression was bad, but
today we're going to go to Alan.
What is that? What are you doing? That's terrible.
So sorry, Australia.
I'm sorry to all Australians out there.
Yeah. It sounds like you're being sort of anal probed halfway through that sentence.
Now, the next person we're going to meet is the Ravager Commander. He's a big lad.
Oh no,
Australia! If you want to box up all your spiders, just mail them to Patrick Smith, care of the Portsmouth, you know. And then Jeremy and I will be starting up our new Souls podcast next week.
Don't give up your humanities. Jeremy Greer, CJ, Coffee Jesus.
Don't give up Australia. So, with regards to getting more people on board, Jeremy, you said you were intending to factor the game into upcoming episodes of Don't Give Up Skeleton, correct?
Yes. I don't know, because I'm a few weeks ahead on that podcast, but at least 2 episodes coming up. I mentioned it. And both times the guest was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never heard of this. What is this? And then at least one of those people have gotten back to me and been like, oh, this looks good. Why have I not heard about this? And like all of, so kind of going along with that. Just no awareness whatsoever. Also, I don't know anything about the developer, but since I was in their Discord, I because I'm a shameless self-promoter, I was like, hey, I have this Dark Souls podcast. Why don't you guys come and talk about Dark Souls and also Immortal Unchained? Like, that'd be a fun podcast. So they said they'd get back to me. I don't know if that's actually going to happen. I hope it does. If you're listening, just get in touch with me. I'm the guy that keeps hassling you in the Discord. But I think that would be a lot of fun to hear kind of some of the inspirations for the game and things like that, just to get the word out. Like I feel like nobody is talking about this. Nobody knows what it is. I'm gonna, once this hits like the $5 to $10 level on Steam, I'll probably just buy a bunch of Steam copies and start handing them out to people, because why not?
Cool.
I mean, if someone gives you a game, generally you're gonna at least put a couple hours into it because you just feel, nice that somebody gave you something.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's one of the things that I was thinking about the future of this with regards to Tobin's next game or any sequel to this, that it seems like one of those games that further down the line would be good to sort of come in on a Game Pass or a Games with Gold or a PS Plus, and people will go, oh, I've never heard that, but it was really good. And all of a sudden you've got more people that are talking about it, and maybe this is 2 or 3 months before Immortal Unchained 2 or whatever the company do next, then it sets the sequel up for a bigger audience.
Or if they just do a spiritual sequel, whatever they do next,
I
am now very interested, because if a company's willing to sort of take this sort of risk and make this sort of game and do such a good job of it, fuck yeah, I'll give what they're on next. Absolutely.
So would you like
I want
to
fast forward 9 years when it's Immortal Unchained 5, and Patty is like, I just hate the lore. I don't like the lore anymore.
We already saw this in the first one.
Why is Golan soup? I don't get it.
Golan's
someone else is saying he's the big worm, and he's saying he's soup, and there's someone else is saying he was just a dude. He wasn't one of these cool dudes. He was just a dude.
He's just a dude in
it's not Immortal Unchained 4 because Toadman are back.
The end begins again. Watch as they become the Tomb Raider.
So next, would you like to see, obviously you've seen the end game, so would you like to see a sequel to Immortal Unchained, or would you like to see another sidestep like Bloodborne was to Dark Souls and do something else with the formula?
Dave, go first, because I don't know what I want to say.
I would like a sequel, but I'm not opposed to if they just tried their hand at something else. Everything they've done with this game has felt so carefully measured and considered. I think that if provided they put that level of attention and detail to another project, it's going to be equally as cherished, I guess, at least among us. It's sort of like a cult classic status. I think that they could do that with another title, and hopefully this will, people will continue to pick this up, and it will be better and do well for them. I know it's on PC, and that community may be larger. I don't look at because it's on Steam. There's a Steam community for it, I believe.
It'd be interesting if there was sort of an entirely different game, and Dave, you're playing through it, and you're like, I'm really enjoying this, and then there's a bit with a character that you meet, and they say, wake up suddenly, and we're like, oh, what's happened? They were like, I had a dream. What was it? Somebody called the Queen of Death, and Dave's just like, no, just like running around his neighborhood. All of a sudden, like, it's connected.
Oh, it's connected. They could do that too with the things that happen in this game. It would be very easy. Actually, I would expect them to do something like that with how they handle the end of this game. I don't know. It's a phenomenal little treasure, something to find that feels that way. It feels like a discovery that we've lucked into this game, and someone was willing to take a chance and see, it for what it really is, versus dismissing it or just thinking, oh, it's just a Souls-like, some sort of knockoff. And it doesn't feel like that. It feels like it's something that they're paying tribute to these games that have come before, and particularly mid-game, there's events that happen that are Souls-like more than anything else in the game, I would argue. And they don't feel like they're just cribbing from another Notebook. It feels like they took this idea and they just kind of ran with it with all their might, in a different direction. And that's... It
doesn't feel sort of winky and kind of and knowing to the audience. It's just one of those things where it's just something that they love and they're doing their own thing with.
Exactly. That doesn't feel like just a nudge wink wink, like, hey, remember this, guys. It's more like, this is something that was cool with another series, and we're gonna just take it this way, and we can do something also with that doesn't have to be what Dark Souls has already done. And that's not to say that everything they do in this game is like treading new ground. It's not. That there's stuff built into the style of game that you kind of have to just take along with it. They're not reinventing the wheel all the way, but they're definitely playing around with those kind of things, and that's something that I would like to see. Whatever they do, in the future, I think, or I hope, will turn out, someone like this. Unfortunately, that's not what we got with, I enjoyed Lords of the Fallen, but the things that I wanted from them, or for them, rather, didn't really happen, at least in the search for me, and that's a shame, because I wanted more of... I could see what they were maybe capable of doing, and they just didn't feel like they did that with the Surge. But this is a more concrete example of taking sort of themes and making a new story with it.
So they've mentioned as well that they're working on New Game Plus, and I said on Twitter, the coolest New Game Plus I've ever played is still Dark Souls 2, because you just go straight in, it throws stuff at you immediately with the Eagle guys, and then as you're going along, it will still throw new bits at you. I still remember the run up to one boss in particular. There was a Red Phantom sort of NPC that summoned, who was harder than the boss and would not let me get to a bonfire, and then started like spinning those flaming cow heads around, and just, you bastards. But it was great, because it wasn't just, oh, here's a harder version of what you've known before. It was something that was very curated and very specific, and even the things that they did with the boss souls and the extra bits of lore was really clever. And I'm wondering if the reason that New Game Plus is coming further down the line is particularly tied into what you said about the lore and the way the story unfolds and the things that are left hanging, as to whether like New Game Plus is maybe going to sort of throw you a few more bones in that regard.
It would be good if it did. There's also things that we've kind of come across in the game that not just like potentially cut content-wise, but things that could open up paths to DLC. Hopefully, there's that. There's doors that we can't get through. And
okay,
I mean, maybe I'm missing something, but I put a lot of time going through each of these levels, like checking every corner. I'm missing a few pieces of lore, but overall, I don't think I've missed what would open those doors. So my hope is that there, some idea of maybe like that the fifth archstone, or whichever one was broken. That kind of thing.
Yeah, because there is one broken, and I didn't know if that was a sort of nod to Demon Souls, or if they're actually going to...
That's exactly the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, it's like, I went back there so many times, like, nope, still closed, okay. And there's like a little warp point in front of it, like where you spawn in, like it's one of those little wake-up points, like, what's that all about? Why is this here? What's it all? There's nothing here. What? Why? Yeah, I'd like to see them do something like that, like maybe DLC, maybe something different for New Game Plus, like opening up some like different areas to go to, some sort of challenge missions or something like that. You know, something maybe more gamey to play with. I kind of like the lore where it is. I don't think, in that same way you say, it kind of feels like quite a complete experience. Like I don't think I want dramatically more lore stuff added in. I'd rather they save that and put that in the eventual sequel.
Yeah, that's
prequel.
I'm of the same opinion on that count.
But
anyway.
on the same coin, I think I'd like them to Dark Souls 2 it, where it's, same universe, but very vastly removed from where we are. I think
with maybe sort of nods and winks towards that, myths and legends that have been retold throughout time, and without being super specific. But if you play the original, you go like,
yeah, exactly.
But I'd say, moreover, on top of that, Toman, just do what you're going to do, because your instincts are good.
Can I help you guys out for a little bit?
Do it.
Project Hathor, or Hathor, Hathor. Project Hathor is a still undisclosed and self-funded action RPG that takes place in a setting very close to heart for us. So far, the game is in prototype stage, and the launch date is not determined.
Hello.
Just
color me interested.
It's amazing what you can find out when you go to like their website. I was just sitting here like, I wonder what they have on their website, and
throws money at screen.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Project hi there, Project Hathor, hi there.
So it seems a good place to rest our case, I guess. But thank you very much, Dave and Jeremy, for joining us. If you'd like to remind the listeners as to where they can find you and dig into your extra stuff, starting with Jeremy.
Sure. The best place to find me is on Twitter at JG Greer. I retweet all of my podcast stuff and a bunch of other people's podcast stuff, and I spend a lot of time retweeting stuff. So just come hang out, talk to me, and chat with me there. I do a various podcast. If you've listened to a lot of Twin Humanities, you'll probably be inclined to enjoy Don't Give Up Skeleton, the Dark Souls related podcast, which has all three of these fine gentlemen have had episodes. So you can start with those, and they're all very, very good, except for Patty says it's just okay. It doesn't do well in the numbers.
He doesn't try. He doesn't write anything down.
You told me it was
He doesn't. But that's it. JG Greer, come find me. And we've had a couple people on Twitter talk to us. Like there's one person, I can't remember their name, Toma, I think, that just has a thread who's like keeping us updated about their Immortal Unchained progress.
Yeah. I saw
please feel free to @ me with all of your Immortal Unchained progress, thoughts, whatever. Just come at me with it, because I'm interested in it.
Yep, same. Get it.
And Dave?
I'm primarily on Twitter at Sentinaut_plus. Otherwise, you can find my main podcast at monsterdearmonster.com. The rest of the podcasts I have links to through my Twitter. Come and talk to me. I also retweet your stuff. I was, in fact, known for doing that for quite some time. I may have been a regent
of retweets, were you not, if I remember rightly?
Yes.
So, Jeremy, thank you for joining us again. Dave, it's been lovely to chat with you properly for the first time, and thank you for having us on. And Paddy, thanks for turning up and not having written anything down and not even brought a bloody pen.
Well, it worked out all right, didn't it?
No, null and void.
I don't know where that edit's going to be.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.